see, Blue Apron's total sales has increased significantly from 2015 to 2017. However, one of Blue Apron's biggest problems and one of their biggest challenges is the fact that their total operating expenses outweigh their total operating revenues. So, in fact, their sales and fulfillment expense make up about 30% of their total revenues. And thus, as you can see, the high expenses and the high cost of production that Blue Apron is forced to deal with weigh down on their bottom line growth. And since inception, Blue Apron has failed to generate a net profit. So it becomes clear that what we need to do is figure out a way to deal with these high costs. We're taking something that's going to be an immense business, but the way that it's currently running isn't going to work. Thus, we want to make a channel change. We don't want to move away from the strategic objective of having a subscription-based model entirely, but we do need to fix it.
Next, we have developed a matrix that shows the flow from the challenges that Blue Apron faces to the strategies that we have come up with. The first challenge focuses on decreasing the high costs associated with the subscription-based model. So what we plan to do is enter into multiple different retailers in hopes of increasing sales by $108 million and scaling back on our operating expenses by 30% by year 3. Our second strategy aims to reach new customers and accommodate consumers with dietary restrictions. So what we're going to do is develop and launch vegan and gluten-free meal kits in hopes of growing our customer base by 3% annually over a 3-year period. We believe that both of these strategies will lead to our ultimate goal of generating a net profit by year 3 of implementation. So this brings us to our first strategic issue, which is how can Blue Apron supplement the high costs associated with their subscription-based model. Along with the decline in the number of subscriptions, there has also been an increased demand for these in-store meal kits. According to IDEO, 69% of people say that they are somewhat or much more likely to use a meal kit if it was available in a grocery store. Along with this, there are unique advantages that the in-store meal kits have over a subscription-based service. It's a lot less commitment for customers, and it allows for more flexibility because customers can decide when and how often they purchase their meal kits. There's also much less waste involved because it eliminates the bulky packaging associated with delivery. Picture this.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I work a full-time job and a family of 4 at home that I have to feed. So come 4 o'clock every single day, the question that I'm asking myself is, what am I going to make for dinner? In fact, 2/3 of working American women ask themselves this question every single day. And the things that are important to me and my family, the things that create value for us, are time, effort, and stress. And Blue Apron in-store meal kits will eliminate all 3 of those factors. And from that value creation drives the demand.
Our goals for this initiative are to move into Whole Foods in the first year, followed by Wegmans in year 2, and 10 small local grocery retailers in year 3, such as McCaffrey's in Bucks County and King's in North Jersey. We have chosen these retailers because they all have a similar profile in that they're all high-end grocery stores with a large prepared food section. Moving on to the actual product, because Blue Apron has already hit direct distribution through Costco, they already have the design of these in-store meal kits created. These kits will be available in the retailer's refrigerated prepared food section and come in serving options of 2 and 4. In order to get people to purchase this product, Blue Apron will feature Blue Apron-specific ambassadors to demonstrate and sample the product. The culinary team will also play a large role in this initiative. There will be 7 options offered at each time in the grocery store, 2 of which will be reserved for the dietary restriction lines. This menu will change bi-weekly and vary depending on seasonal recipes. In order for Blue Apron to work on their weakness of customer retention, Blue Apron will include coupons in the packaging to be used for the consumer's next purchase. This will encourage and motivate consumers to repurchase from Blue Apron. Additionally, Blue Apron will implement a policy similar to Aldi called Refund and Replace. This will show the consumer that the top priority is customer satisfaction. Here's an idea of what the meal kits will look like in store. Blue Apron will work closely with each retail partner to cater the offerings to the store's demographics and the consumer trends of each store's location. It's important to recognize the value that Blue Apron will bring to each retailer. In terms of resources, Blue Apron has a culinary team in place who design each recipe and menu. Additionally, the fulfillment centers are strategically located throughout the United States, and the employees are well trained. In terms of culture, Blue Apron and each retail partner have similar cultures and stress the importance of high quality ingredients and building a better food system. The processing that Blue Apron currently does will remain the same, with all of the packaging and measuring done at the fulfillment centers, minus Blue Apron's weakest link, which is delivery. Lastly, with Blue Apron creating these meal kits, it eliminates the pressure off the grocer to create their own in-store meal kits. Additionally, the risk is deflected from the grocery store and onto Blue Apron with the replacement and refund policy in place.
In order to forecast our sales for our first strategy, we took a look at our main competitor, HelloFresh, who recently entered in the in-store meal kit. So we took a look at HelloFresh's grocer, in this case Giant and Stop & Shop, and their total sales, and how much of those total sales were attributed to the in-store sales of HelloFresh's meal kits. So that metric came out to be about 0.33%, which we then applied to the total sales of each of our 3 retailers, Whole Foods, Wegmans, and so on. In terms of our cost of goods sold and our operating expenses, as I previously mentioned, shipping and fulfillment make up about 30% of Blue Apron's total revenue. So by entering into the retail grocery market, they would be eliminating that expense because they wouldn't have that last mile expenditure. What we further expect in terms of our cost of goods sold is a further decrease by capitalizing on the partnerships that these retail grocers have with their suppliers, which would enable Blue Apron to purchase their ingredients at a cheaper price, thus reducing their cost of goods sold.
The second strategic question we ask is, how can Blue Apron reach new customers and accommodate consumers with dietary restrictions? Blue Apron currently has an online cookbook that consists of 27 various cuisines from around the world. They also have a vegetarian line, so why stop here? 60% of Americans restrict at least one nutrient from their diet, and this number has steadily increased 3% annually since 2011. Blue Apron is missing on this huge target market. In order to expand their consumer base, Blue Apron will create recipes that are specifically catered toward the vegan and gluten-free markets. There has been a large increase in consumer trends among these areas, such as a 600% increase in vegan consumers from 2014. In addition, those who follow such diets may have difficulty in creating recipes and meals for themselves that accommodate their lifestyle, and Blue Apron's specialized meal kits will help solve this problem. To implement this strategy, Blue Apron will release a NutriPlus vegan line and a Blue Apron gluten-free line. Blue Apron's culinary team will utilize the ingredients that they already can acquire from their current farm partnerships in order to craft these recipes. In year 1, Blue Apron will release 25 gluten-free recipes and 50 vegan, and as you can see, from year to year, these numbers will steadily increase in accordance with consumer trends. In store, 2 of the 7 available meal kit options will be reserved for these 2 lines. However, online, these meal kits, our customers will have the ability to choose from any of the meals available. This will help bridge the gap between our online and in-store model, as these customers will soon have the desire to have more than 2 available options.
So taking a look at the implementation of our strategies, please note that on the left side of the graph, it represents the increase in sales, whereas the right side of the graph represents the increase in net profit. So by implementing our strategies, we will not only increase our top line growth by capitalizing on the demand for in-store meal kits, as well as expanding our consumer base, but we'll also be increasing our bottom line growth by reducing our cost of goods sold and our expensive production expenses. So by implementing these strategies, we expect by the 3rd year of implementation, Blue Apron will finally be able to generate a net profit.
To summarize, if Blue Apron continues down the path they are on, they will not sustain much longer. By doing these strategies we have explained, we see a future for Blue Apron.
Lastly, we've developed a new vision statement that we think more accurately depicts the company with our strategic plan. Thank you.
Nice job, ladies. The one question I do have, though, relates to subscriptions. I didn't really hear a discussion about how you're going to prevent the subscriptions from falling off. And if I'm interpreting this last financial slide you had, it still looks like you're anticipating a significant financial impact from the vegan and gluten-free product lines. Most of that will be available via subscription, so you still have to resolve the issue of subscriptions falling off. And so I'm curious how you would address that issue.
Yeah, so right now our subscriptions are declining already, so that's kind of why we're taking the initiative to go in stores. However, when Michaela said it, like we want to bridge the gap between the in-store and online. So we see maybe in the near future, like the specialized ones becoming the most popular online. So we see a future online for the more options for the specialized.
So do you have information that helps you understand that that's been the issue that's caused the drop off, or are you speculating about where the drop off is coming from?
As more competitors enter the market with subscription-based meal kits, we've seen Blue Apron kind of fall behind within the market share. So we figure that the subscriptions will continue, and we still do have our loyal customers who like that and the convenience and makes it easy for them. But we do feel that the in-store will compensate the high costs that are associated with the subscription.
We also have a graph to show the decline in the number of subscriptions. So as you can see from early of 2017, the number of subscriptions have been declining.
Great job, ladies. So it is a recipe for disaster, for sure. So you didn't get into, but I had a question. In the supermarket strategy, is the product going into the supermarket fresh or frozen? And if it is fresh, did you think about or talk about shrink and when that date, because it's a perishable food, when that date is up, is that on Blue Apron or is that on the supermarket operator?
Yeah, so we did consider that. It would be going similar to right to the customer's door from our fulfillment centers. It'd go right to the retailers. We did consider shrink, but our recipes in store would rotate bi-weekly. So it's kind of like take what we didn't sell and replace with the new weekly recipes. But we're hoping as we get more traction in stores that we'll sell out those in stores by growing our consumer base there.
But who pays if you don't sell it?
It will be on us to take the extra food that didn't sell.
Okay, thank you. Great job.
Great job out of the gates. Always tough going first. And so I appreciate that. Two quick questions. Love the strategy. The control cost, right? So that's one of their biggest issues, as you show they're not making a profit today. Coming out with 75 different versions of gluten-free, that's a lot of inventory to carry as well. So how do you rotate that? I mean, how do you think or vision some company like that, a manufacturer, would control those costs?
Yeah, so currently we only offer about 20 each week, different recipes. So it wouldn't be 75 like at once, but spread out throughout the year in different months, just to kind of build as with the other recipes that we offer.
Okay.
We also currently offer over 500 recipes, but like Marisa said, we don't offer them all at one time. So by rotating them, our customers will be able to choose bi-weekly which ones they would want to use.
Great answer. And the second follow-up is there's a lot of consumers out there, and obviously someone like Blue Apron tends to scale to the higher end of the spectrum. Did you consider in your strategy, outside of maybe some of the shipping costs, et cetera, and packaging, a lower tier product to offer to somebody else? And so, I mean, there are multiple people out there. Could you do a more affordable for larger families or just people that cannot afford it?
I think Blue Apron prides itself on its quality ingredients and high price, and that's why we chose the specific retailers that we went into. So I think we're going to stay with our roots and target those higher income consumers.
Great.
In
Thank you.
addition to Monica's comment right there, we did pick our specific retailers based on their target demographic and how that aligned with our target demographic. So that kind of contributed to the rationale behind those decisions.
Nice job, ladies. The first question was, you talked about Blue Apron being in Costco right now. How is that test going? Are they seeing not only the sales piece, but how's it impacting the margin?
It's going pretty well so far. There has been a 26.5% increase in sales for the whole in-store meal kit segment. So there has been proven growth in the in-store meal kits.
It hasn't been a full year of actually being in Costco yet, but one of the things that we were kind of thinking in our rationale is we were expanding the idea of expanding further into Costco, but one of the contradictions in that is that consumers typically aren't going into Costco to grab something quick. They're going into Whole Foods or Wegmans to grab something quick for dinner, but usually Costco is something where you go on Sunday and you do your bulk shopping for the week, so it didn't really align with what we were trying to achieve.
Have they also follow-up question to that as well? Have they, the people that are buying the pack Blue Apron in Costco already, have we seen an influx in subscriptions from that?
I think because the implementation in Costco is still so new that it's hard to tell.
Yeah, because when you kind of look at when you look at this slide, I mean, you think about what it takes to acquire someone for a subscription, and we see now the cliff diving. It might be another way for us to potentially look at that avenue, but I guess from your perspective, what's been the biggest reason for the drop-off in the subscriptions?
Well, we struggle with customer retention. And the reason for that is because we grew so fast, so early, that new competitors have come in, and usually they do like, sign up today, you get 50% off, and we find that a lot of our customers will switch around. So
it's also a lot of commitment to subscribe. So that's why we're kind of thinking of going in-store, because it's so much less commitment and customers can just purchase when they want and don't have to be committed to something for like a full year.
Yeah, and I love your strategy around the vegan and the vegetarian piece. I think that's the potentially the secret sauce of what they're missing. So nice job.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Bojangles team, and this is our strategic plan presentation. We thank you so much for being here with us. My name is Alex. This is Gwen, Rachel, Noah, and Rachel. This evening, we're going to take you through a company and industry overview, our SWOT analysis, the strategic issues that we've identified for our company, our strategic solutions, and a conclusion.
A little bit about Bojangles is they're a Southern-style restaurant known for their chicken and biscuits. They're a regional chain located mainly in the southeast of the United States, and because of that, they are relatively small, with only 764 restaurants. They began back in 1977 by Jack Folk and Richard Thomas, and they really value their loyal customers, so they strive to deliver high-quality food to them every day.
We are a quick service restaurant, but we operate in the limited service industry. Our market share is 0.90%, and this is because we're competing against top competitors such as McDonald's, Yum Brands, and Restaurant Brands International, who are both parent companies to our two top competitors, KFC and Popeyes.
So as Gwen mentioned, in the chicken business, we do compete with KFC and Popeyes, both which have a larger presence than us, both internationally and domestically.
Bojangles has been a publicly traded company since 2015. As you can see, our revenues have increased over the past 3 years, but so have our costs, and this is because we continue to open up company-operated stores, and we incur all the costs from them. However, we are efficient in managing our non-operating expenses, and that includes our SG&A, like accounting, legal, and marketing expenses.
My team had the opportunity to visit the franchise located in Reading, PA, where we were able to notice key strengths and weaknesses of our company. Beginning with strengths, we walked in to see 10 Bo fanatics ready for their chicken and biscuits just 3 days after Thanksgiving, where I guess everyone had got sick of turkey already. They were there trying the bone-in chicken, the sweet mashed potatoes, which as you can see in the picture, we pride ourselves on high quality ingredients. Bojangles has food that is always fresh, never frozen, and the biscuits are baked fresh every 20 minutes. Taking a look at weaknesses, we are limited geographically. As Rachel mentioned, we are located in the southeast region of the United States. However, the one we visited was in Pennsylvania. It is the only Bojangles in the state of Pennsylvania. Another weakness that we feel we need to recognize are the long wait times. As you can see in the picture, we waited 10 minutes for a $12 meal, which is absurd in this industry. So we want to target this weakness because we feel that our customers need to see that they are valued and we want them to not wait as long as they have to. We spoke with franchise operator Razi, who operates the 5 franchises in Maryland, and he said this is a key weakness that the company faces because they target their drive-through customers more than their in-store customers. Looking at opportunities, technology is a huge trend in the marketplace today. We see the kiosks in Wawa and McDonald's, the mobile ordering, and this is a huge opportunity that we can capitalize. Another opportunity is the increased interest in Southern-style flavors in newer markets all around the country. Finally, our biggest threat is our competition. As Rachel mentioned previously, our biggest competitors are KFC and Popeyes, which I'm sure everyone here knows who they are. When we visited the Reading Bojangles, right across the street, as you can see in the picture, was the KFC. Taking a look at our organic projections, revenues have been increasing, as Noah has mentioned, in the last 3 years. However, they are increasing at a slower rate, and this is due to the slowed growth and the opening of newer stores. So as the years go on, we are projected to start losing net income because we are slowing down the growth of these opening new stores.
Based on our internal and external analysis, we've developed 3 strategic issues. How can Bojangles increase margins since operating costs are rising? How can Bojangles leverage current technology trends to enhance customer experience? And how can Bojangles meet the needs of customers in new markets and increase revenue? These stem from our SWOT analysis, and from these 3 strategic issues, we've developed 3 actionable strategic objectives which we will implement. Our first strategy is refranchising, and our objective is to reduce costs by refranchising company-operated restaurants to increase the percentage of franchise stores from 57 to 70% by 2020. We plan to refranchise in our 3 core markets, which are North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, due to high brand awareness and the demand for franchises. We plan to implement 99 stores over the next 3 years, introducing 33 stores per year, targeting multi-unit franchise owners. As Rachel mentioned earlier, after speaking with multi-unit franchise owner Razi, we know that franchisees are extremely committed to the success of each individual restaurant.
Looking at the projections for this refranchising strategy, as Gwen mentioned, we would like to increase the percentage to 70%, and we can successfully do that to 72%. As a result, our costs will decrease by 24% over those 3 projected years, which will lead our net profit margin to increase to 10% by the end of 2020. As a result, we do lose revenues from those company-operated stores that we convert to franchise, but the costs outweigh the revenues in this situation.
This leads us to our second strategy, which is installing in-store kiosks. Bojangles will place ordering kiosks in 100 company-operated restaurants over the next 3 years to increase revenue. Kiosks are found to enhance the convenience and the customer experience. They will also enhance efficiency and help with order accuracy. It is found through an article that we read in Quick Service Restaurant Magazine that kiosks increase the average check size by 15% for businesses, and also they improve the speed of service. So this will directly tackle our main weakness of long wait times. To implement our kiosk strategy, we will identify 100 high and low volume company-operated stores to pilot our kiosks. We do this because we want to see how the kiosk will perform over a wide range of stores with varying amounts of customers. We will also place 3 kiosks in each store. We envision our implementation to look like what you see on the screen. We will keep 1 traditional cashier in each store for cash payments, or if people are uncomfortable or unfamiliar with using our new technology.
The total cost to implement these kiosks in 100 restaurants over 3 years is $900,000. We will see our total revenues increase 3%, and we will see our net income increase 6% over the next 3 years. We calculate an MPV value of just over $1 million, and we conclude that this strategy will be successful.
Our third and final strategy for Bojangles is to expand geographically. We would do this by introducing 100 franchised restaurants in 2 new markets and 4 current markets by 2020 to increase our franchise royalty revenues by 10%. The new markets we chose are Texas and Mississippi. We chose them because they are close to our current markets, which helps with brand awareness, and they also fit with the southern feel that Bojangles offers. The current markets we would place more stores in are Florida, Kentucky, Alabama, and Tennessee. To help with brand awareness, we would allocate $1.5 million to our advertising costs over 3 years, and we would put these things towards like billboards, flyers, and a social media campaign. And as we mentioned when we did talk with Razi, he said that social media was his main priority because it's the best way to get younger generations, such as millennials, into the stores. And if you look at the screen, this is a map of Bojangles currently, and this is what our expansion plan would look like. So the dark green are the untouched markets. The army green are the 4 current markets we would place more stores in because they currently don't have that many in them. And then the bright green are the 2 new markets we would like to enter.
The financial projections for our geographic expansion strategy allow our franchise royalty revenues to increase by 10% over the 3 projected years. This would increase our overall revenues to 2.5% and lead to a net income increase of 7%. The marketing expense that Rachel talked about is a part of other operating expenses, and we've allocated $500,000 a year for this expense.
When we combined all 3 of our strategies together, our refranchising company-operated restaurants, installing kiosks, and expanding geographically, we will see our net income increase 45% in 3 years. One key takeaway is that our company-operated restaurant expenses will decrease 25%, as that's because we are franchising out a majority of our company-operated restaurants, and therefore we eliminate all of our costs associated with those restaurants.
This is our balanced scorecard. Overall, our goal is to enhance value for our stakeholders. For our customers, our strategies retain loyal customers and acquire new ones, and cut down on customer wait time. Financially, they increase net income while decreasing company operating expenses. In regards to our internal business processes, they implement technological advances and create more efficient order fulfillment. For our learning and growth, they're expanding to new markets while learning and addressing consumer trends.
In conclusion, our refranchising strategy will cut our costs by 24% and increase our profit margin to 10%. Our kiosk strategy will tackle our main weakness and shorten our wait times while increasing revenues by 3%. And our geo-expansion strategy will grow brand awareness in new markets, as well as increase our franchise royalty revenues to 10%. It's bow time. We thank you so much for your attention, and we would like to now open the floor to questions.
Great job, everyone. Do you have any details on, so when you're turning stores that are currently company stores over to franchisees, I don't think it's going to work without capital expenditure into that store, so refreshing the store. And also, do you have numbers on CapEx on that piece, as well as do you have numbers on CapEx on all of your, what's a new store cost to put up, I guess? And then did you factor that capital, including the $900,000 for the technology, all the new construction, and all the remodels to turn them over to franchise? Did you get into any of that?
We didn't. We just figured that we would take our stores that we have and then sell them to the store to the franchise at a premium. So we did factor in the premium when refranchising, but we didn't calculate any expenditure other than that.
I think it'll be a tough sell to find a franchisee that takes a rundown store, just as a cautionary item. The other question, did you look at distribution costs based on the new states? So you're going to Texas. I don't know where your warehousing and wholesaling is now, but obviously that would add some expense.
As far as like supply chain,
Yeah.
we have a main supplier. It's McLean. So we did look into where their warehouses are, and they do have locations in the new markets that we want to open up into. And our plan is to kind of open up new franchises in around a big city and in an area, so that would help cut down on our supply chain costs because they would be delivering to a lot of different stores in one area.
Great, thank you.
Great job. I love me some Bojangles. It's probably responsible for at least 5 pounds of this when I lived in the South. So I'm thrilled you're bringing it to Pennsylvania. Thank you on behalf of everyone in the room. My question, I guess, a couple of things, but really love the focus on the kiosk. So are you reinvesting the labor that you're taking away to speed up the cooking time and all that stuff by the kiosks? Because there is still that expense. You said it's $900,000 over 3 years, correct? So there's a cost, and then who is, if it's franchised, who's paying for the kiosks? So if you can answer all those, that'd be great.
Yeah, so to answer the last question that you had said, we're putting it in our company-operated restaurants first, so the company will take on the costs of that. Our plan was to do it in company-operated restaurants first, and then be able to roll it out throughout the whole company into the franchise stores. And I'm sorry, your first question?
Just the reinvestment of the labor
Yes.
to speed up the times.
Yeah, so labor, one really great thing about Bojangles is our training program. So our employees in the store are trained to work in all areas of the store. So when we're taking one cashier away, we're going to be putting them either in the back to help with cooking times, on the drive-through to speed that up, or assist people on the floor with using the technology.
Okay, thank you.
All right, like Joe, I love me some Bojangles too in Reading, but I guess I'm gonna look a little bit different. You think about Bojangles and the health and wellness spectrum. It's fried, and lots of calories. What are your thoughts behind that?
So one of our key weaknesses on our SWOT analysis was that the healthy eating trends are a big threat to our company. However, we do have an under 500 calorie option menu that we feel is enough for what we offer because people aren't going to Bojangles for healthy food. However, that is something we can consider in the future, developing that healthy option menu.
Nice job. Very nice job.
Yes, I agree. You all did do a nice job. And I don't really remember Bojangles. It was like way back when from high school, I think. In fact, I didn't realize they were still in business. No offense. But I did want to, I'm a little curious just to go back to this question of the kiosks and technology and what you want to do in the stores. And so from your observation, can I assume when you went there that the backlog issue was it the cashier or was it the preparation of the food?
I think it was a little bit of both. There was about 10 people there waiting, and I think it was people waiting for the cashier because there was only one cashier open. So we're hoping that implementing more than one kiosk would speed that process up. And the hope is that when we repurpose that cashier, that will also help speed up the process of making the food.
So you said there were 10 people there waiting for their food who'd already seen the cashier?
But we actually still had to wait in line for food.
Okay.
Like we had to wait line behind other people.
Because as I was reading about that in your summary, I was thinking that potentially there's also an opportunity as it relates to an app, so that potentially that's a way of addressing a segment of the demand, and then obviously taking cashiers off the cashier line and putting them into making the food so that the food comes out faster for everyone feels like a real opportunity.
Yeah.
But, well, thank you.
Thank you.
The store in Reading also now has a Popeyes right behind it, so these guys are toast.
Yeah, absolutely.
How are you? Good luck.
Hi. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck. No pressure.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's on. Good, got it. Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to thank you all for coming today. We're Abbott Labs, and we're about to present to you the strategic initiatives for the company. I'm Kyle Miller.
I'm Justin Delosa.
I'm Katie Medici.
I'm Alec Weaver.
And I'm Michaela Cassidy.
So for the agenda today, we're going to do a brief company overview, then move into SWOT analysis, SMART objectives, the strategic overview, our implementation, and then finally our projected results and the conclusion. So for a brief company overview, Abbott basically wants everyone to live their healthiest lives possible. They design, develop, manufacture, and sell healthcare products. So they were founded in 1888 in Chicago, Illinois, and right now they have around 99,000 employees. Their current CEO was Miles White, and now they have about 100 manufacturing facilities in 32 countries with 80 suppliers in the US and around the world. And so the way Abbott is set up is split into 4 business segments. So they have nutritionals, cardiovascular, diagnostics, and pharmaceuticals. So for the nutritional segment, they have products like Ensure Max and Pedialyte. Cardiovasculars, they have pacemakers and heart monitors like the HeartMate. Diagnostics, they have screenings for cancer and infectious disease like the Abbott Prism. And the pharmaceuticals, they have a product called Brofen, which is very similar to ibuprofen. And now I'm going to hand it over to Justin for the SWOT analysis.
Here's a look at our SWOT analysis. As you can see, we have $4.9 billion in free cash flows for one of our strengths. This allows us to fund our acquisitions. We also have a strong global presence. 70% of Abbott's sales are done internationally. However, one of our weaknesses is that our only cardiovascular presence in China is our St. Jude acquisition. China has a population of over $1.3 billion, so this is obviously a place that we would like to expand. In our opportunities, China's growing middle class is expected to go to 780 million people by the mid-2020s, and there's also a global increase in cardiovascular disease, and there's 230 million people in China living with cardiovascular disease. For our SMART objectives, our external and internal factors all relate back to our SWOT analysis. Our first 2 factors take us into one of our objectives, which is to increase cardiovascular sales in emerging markets by $3 billion by the end of 2020. We plan on doing this by purchasing Microport Scientific, which is headquartered in Hong Kong. And our third external and internal factor takes us to our second objective, which is to utilize Abbott's already existing nutritional drink formula. And that's going to help us increase our sales to $2.5 billion by the end of 2020. And we plan on doing this by introducing our breakfast drink with probiotics, which Katie is about to talk about.
So the first strategic issue that we encountered was Abbott's lack of a probiotic and breakfast meal replacement drink in their nutritional segment. Throughout our research, we found that consumers are increasingly interested in living healthier lifestyles, but they're also constantly on the go looking for ways to fit in breakfast. According to a study conducted by Mintel, 39% of consumers already reported utilizing a nutritional or performance drink as a breakfast meal replacement. We also found that there's a heightened awareness around consumers' digestive and immune disorders, which is manageable through the use of probiotics. And the probiotic market is growing. It's currently valued at around $45 billion, but it's projected to grow at a 7% compounded annual growth rate, ultimately reaching $64 billion by 2022. And the main reason we felt this strategic issue was so important for our company was because we identified one of our major competitors in our nutritional segment as Nestle, and they currently have their own version of a breakfast meal replacement drink, which is their Carnation's Breakfast Essentials line. And we felt in order to better compete with them, we needed to come up with a comparable product that had its own nutritional twist to it. So with that being said, we decided that our first strategy is to introduce a breakfast meal replacement drink with probiotics. And our plan is to utilize and rebrand our already existing Ensure Cafe Mocha Max Protein Nutritional Shake formula and just add the probiotics into that to save money on R&D. We plan to sell this product globally with an emphasis on the United States and China because those are the 2 markets that are expected to see the greatest usage of probiotic increase over the next couple of years. Additionally, we plan to utilize our state-of-the-art nutritional manufacturing facility that we created in 2013 that's located in China to produce this product.
Getting into the financials for our first strategy, as you can see, we expect sales globally to be $1.2 billion in the first year, ultimately growing to $2.5 billion by year 3. We got these numbers by taking the overall probiotic market share, multiplying that by what we believe our market share could be. Since the probiotic market lacks any major competitors, and Abbott currently has around 20% market share in the nutritional segment, we believe that these numbers of about 3% or 2.5%, 3.5%, and 4.5% market share were relatively reasonable. Our cost of goods is expected to be slightly higher than our company average. This is because while we do have all the current ingredients, we still will have to find and source the probiotic, which is the reason for the premium. Going down to the net income, we expect total net income of $293 million for this strategy in the first year, growing to $485 million in year 2, and ultimately reaching $690 million by 2020.
So the second issue we would like to address is Abbott's lack of cardiovascular presence in emerging markets. As Justice said at our SWOT, right now, our only cardiovascular presence in China is our recent St. Jude acquisition. This is not only a problem because China's middle class is growing, but so is the rate at which people are getting cardiovascular disease. As you can see, 230 million people out of their 1.4 billion population have some sort of cardiovascular disease. And if you compare that to the US population, they're nearly similar. This led us into our second strategy of acquiring Microport Scientific. Microport and Abbott are very similar companies. They both engage in the manufacture and selling of medical device products. They have over 300 products that they sell in over 8,000 hospitals worldwide. And what we plan to do is to take advantage of their facilities in China and grow our acquisition through them. So to get the acquisition price, we took Microport's market cap of $1.4 billion, added a 20% premium, and got the price to be $1.7 billion. This will be funded through our $4.9 billion in free cash flows, and after doing an NPV analysis, we found that the value Microport will be creating for us is $16 billion. Now looking into the financials, you can see our sales are increasing year over year. We calculated our sales by taking the overall cardiovascular market size in China, multiplying that by what we project St. Jude's market share to be, and did the same thing for Microport and add those together to get a top line. As for our cost of goods sold, you can see that's slightly around 30% from year to year. We took that from historical data from Microport and St. Jude and thought those were appropriate numbers for this acquisition. Moving into our bottom line, you can see that our net income will be increasing from $408 million to $710 million by 2020.
Looking at our final consolidated income statement, we can see that our sales are projected to be $31.5 billion in 2018, growing ultimately to $35.5 billion by 2020. This is great for Abbott, as this is about $4 billion higher than what we projected their net sales to be without these strategies. Our cost of goods is also supposed to decline as a percent of sales, and this is due to the increase of sales of St. Jude products, which have the lower cost of goods. Similarly, our SG&A is expected to decline as a percent of sales, and this is due to us incorporating these new acquisitions into our company and further cost strategies that Abbott has implemented. Going down to the bottom, you can see we have a projected net income of $1.6 billion in year 1, growing to $2.1 billion in year 2, and ultimately reaching $2.9 billion by 2020. This is great for Abbott, as in 2017, they only had $477 million as a net income, or about 1.74%. We believe that through our strategies, we'll be able to increase their net profit margin to about 8.1%. So in conclusion, by acquiring Microport Scientific, we believe that we will not only be able to increase our sales in the cardiovascular market by $2 billion, but actually exceed our expectation and increase it by $3.5 billion. By incorporating our new probiotic drink into our nutritional segment, we think that we'll be able to also exceed that goal of increasing sales by $2.5 billion by meeting that goal in 2020. Thank you very much. That has been our presentation. We'll now open the floor to questions.
Great job, guys. So just a couple quick questions, really centered around the Breakfast Ensure Max. First of all, who's the consumer? What's the target market for that?
Our target market is just consumers that are constantly on the go, and we did a lot of research finding that consumers are looking for ways to have breakfast on the go, and there was definitely a market for that type of product. So.
Okay. And where are you guys merchandising that in the store? So when it goes to retail, where is it going to be in the store?
Well, we're actually going to shelve it next to our already existing Ensure products, and we plan to keep the Ensure Max by itself, and then also have the probiotic product as well. So it's going to be right next to it.
Okay.
And also, going off of that, we know that consumers have different preferences, so they might not want the probiotics in their Ensure drink. So, hopefully, by taking up most of the shelves in the stores, we plan to um, back off really most of our competitors and trying to gain as much shelf space as possible. Just keeping both of those up there with our new probiotics, because there are people that are looking for probiotics instead of taking the small supplement pills.
Sure. And so,
Yeah.
obviously, your strength would be staying in health and wellness. Did you consider at all a different part of the store, like the breakfast aisle, where there's been a decline in some of the cereals or other products? There's a lot of innovation coming out there between breakfast bars and such. Did you consider a shake in that aisle?
Yeah, we really didn't consider shaking that part out yet, just because right now, if you go into like a Giant, most of Abbott's products are in like the medicine aisle. So you'll see like even their drinks are in the medicine aisle. It's not really in like the breakfast section, but that's definitely something we could think about moving forward. But since it's all, I guess since it's a healthcare company, and our products are more expensive, that's where they've been placed for.
Great. Thank you.
Abbott's got some nice cash flow for sure. So I guess my question would be, what's the contingency plan? I love your acquisition plan on buying Microport Scientific, but if that would fall through, what was the contingency plan to drive cardiovascular?
If that were to fall through, we would preferably start to open new manufacturing facilities for St. Jude in China. Currently, China has a huge preference in medical devices for things that were manufactured there. So in order to break into that, we think that we would need to set up a new manufacturing plant to be able to penetrate that market.
Thank you.
So I think just want to get clarification on a point. So when you talk about your breakfast drink, I understand initially you're thinking to take, was it the mocha?
Yeah.
Cafe, mocha, whatever,
Yeah.
product and alter that formula. Are you also thinking that there will need to be additional flavors? I didn't hear conversation about that. I may have missed it. But certainly it feels like in order to achieve the growth you're looking at, you're not going to accomplish it with a one flavor. And so then if you're talking about additional flavors, then you're also talking about additional R&D expense.
Right. I think we wanted to start off with just utilizing the formula that we already have, which is the cafe mocha. And because it has so much protein in it and the caffeine, we felt it was the right formula to kind of roll out this product starting off. But I definitely think that we did consider down the road adding in the other flavors and stuff like that.
To add to that, they do actually have other flavors of the Ensure Max and stuff like vanilla and things like that. So we would be able to just add the probiotics to those formulas as well. It wouldn't necessarily have to be the mocha flavor for that.
And so then also in thinking about the idea of branching out of the sort of the nutraceuticals aisle, it feels like if you really want to consider the broad market, you want to be looking at not people who are looking for a product because they have some underlying health issue that takes them to where Ensure is, that you do need to be looking at that broader market that just wants a quick breakfast. So that's certainly something that I think that you should consider longer term, especially to achieve the kind of growth that you were looking at.
Great job, guys. Just sticking with Ensure Plus, can you go back to the market share and how you got to, I think you said 2 or 3% market share. I'm just trying to understand, is that of the health and beauty?
That's of the probiotics.
The probiotics, so it's not the breakfast.
No.
It's not, so because you were talking a little bit about Nestle and the competitors being breakfast, so you're really not looking at that market. You're looking strictly at the probiotics market.
That was more for projections, was to look at the probiotics. And
And
additionally,
then with so on the marketing plan for Ensure Plus, did you talk about or did you think about who you're going after? How are you getting that word out? Is it hospitals, healthcare, doctors' offices, or is it supermarkets, FSI coupons? How are you working the marketing side?
Yeah, so for our nutritionals, that's B2C business. Like the rest of our segments are mostly business to business. We sell to like our cardiovascular products to hospitals, but these we sell to like retailers. So we didn't really think too much about like the marketing aspect. They do a lot of like advertising. You'll see like some commercials on TV for specific products, but Abbott in general doesn't really do too much marketing because most of their business is business to business. These are really their only products that are business to consumer.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, sure. Take your time. Hello, everybody. We are the Brinks team, and today we will be presenting on our final strategic plan. My name's Samantha String.
My name is Giovanni Sparasio.
I'm Claire Hegarty.
I'm Nicole Wells.
And I'm Tiana Santos.
So today we will be introducing two strategies. The first will involve Brinks utilizing their core services to enter the cannabis industry, which will generate almost $29 million in net income. And the second will involve the expansion of facilities into metropolitan areas with untapped customers, which will generate over $3 million in income. Nearly 10% of Brinks' consolidated net income will come from the implementation of these two strategies, and we are so excited to tell you about them today. But first, Tiana's going to tell us a little bit more about the Brinks company.
Thank you, Sam. Brinks generates their revenue from 3 lines of business. First, from core services such as cash in transit. Second, from high-value services such as luxury in transit. And lastly, from guarding. With this, Brinks has 3 core customer groups, largely financial institutions, retail businesses, and lastly, the government and other consumers. Here you'll see our SWOT analysis. Throughout this presentation, we will discuss how Brinks can leverage their core competencies to infiltrate disruptive cash-based markets and expand their U.S. presence, all while remaining competitive in the cash-based industry. So let's face it, we're all using debit and credit cards. The use of cash by consumers has decreased over the years, and this is a significant threat to Brinks' industry. We feel that setting an objective to infiltrate disruptive cash-based markets in the United States will increase revenue by 1% by 2021. To accomplish this objective, we are recommending that Brinks enters the cannabis industry, which Nicole will now discuss in our first strategy.
Thank you, Tiana. Our first strategy is for Brinks to enter the cannabis cash management industry. Why cannabis? Well, there are several obstacles within this industry that Brinks can provide solutions to. First, dispensaries are accumulating large amounts of cash on a monthly basis and need a reliable source to manage and transport this cash. Another obstacle is the banking restrictions that are currently associated with the cannabis industry. Since banks are federally regulated and cannabis is considered a Schedule I drug, which is federally illegal, the earnings derived from the sale of it cannot be placed into the banking system. As a result, cash needs to be used, and each dispensary is responsible for managing and transporting their own cash. Brinks is heavily insured and is well equipped to provide this middleman service. And finally, when businesses are operating solely on cash transactions, the risk of money laundering becomes a significant issue. Brinks can mitigate this risk because of its reputation and third-party objectivity. So let's take a look at what the cannabis industry looks like. When we look at the current cannabis distribution chain, we see that it all starts with the grower, who then brings the cannabis to a producer who refines the crop into products such as kush, hash, or oils. The producers then distribute the products to dispensaries in exchange for cash, who then sell the products to consumers. The dispensaries then take the cash used in these transactions and bring it to a secure off-site location. So, where does Brinks come in? Right here. Brinks will first manage and transport the payments between the dispensaries and the producers. Brinks will then manage and transport the payments from the dispensary to the off-site location. Now, in order to make this all happen, Brinks is going to equip each dispensary with their patented smart safe called the CompuSafe, which will establish an audit trail in this highly regulated industry. So let's take a look at some locations. Currently, cannabis is medicinally and recreationally legalized in 7 states and is medicinally legalized in 32 states. In order for Brinks to effectively enter the cannabis industry, they will first operate this strategy in the 7 states where cannabis is medicinally and recreationally legalized. And then in 2020, Brinks will add this service line to 10 states where cannabis is medicinally legalized. And finally, in 2021, they will add this service line to an additional 15 states where cannabis is medicinally legalized. And Brinks will be able to implement this strategy given their current infrastructure.
Strategy 1 clearly creates value for Brinks. Here you can see that revenues increased by about 47% from 2019 to 2020, and about 38% from 2020 to 2021. And this is reflected in the bottom line. You can see that net income grows at a faster rate than revenue year over year. Due to the heightened risk associated with the cannabis industry, the services provided are more profitable than the same services provided for traditional clients. When we common size this income statement, we can see that the cost of revenues are decreasing year over year, and this is great for Brinks. This means that as the revenues are increasing with the implementation of our strategy, the cost of revenues aren't increasing at the same rate, so then they become more profitable at the margin.
Thanks, Claire. So the next issue we found with Brinks is their constrained U.S. presence. We thought to set an objective to expand their U.S. presence, which would in turn improve profitability and reduce their consolidated cost of revenues by 0.5% by 2021. We plan on doing this through an expansion proposal. And this brings us to our second strategy, the banking service expansion. All right, let's set the stage. This map represents the current U.S. distribution channel of Brinks. If we consider their recent Dunbar acquisition, we can see that Brinks has expanded their reach to these U.S. locations. If you take a look at the map, you can see that Brinks is well positioned on the West Coast and in the East, with limited presence west of the Mississippi. Keeping these location concentrations in mind, we have chosen to expand to 3 new, economically flourishing metropolitan locations: Colorado Springs, Colorado, San Antonio, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee.
These locations were strategically selected due to their larger populations, which generally correlates to the increased presence of banks. Additionally, these are up-and-coming areas with booming real estate markets that people are flocking to. We believe that we will be able to capture a percentage of these banks in our initial presence, and as our presence continues to mature in these locations, we know Brinks will be able to capture a larger percentage of banks year over year. Also, because cannabis is legal in Colorado Springs, we will be able to capture a percentage of the dispensaries in these areas, which directly ties to our first strategy. To implement this second strategy, we will first purchase 39 new trucks and 43 new CompuSafe units. The trucks will be allocated to the 3 new locations, and the CompuSafe units will be distributed among the dispensaries in Colorado Springs. We are also going to hire 39 truck drivers, 60 hoppers, and a 9-person sales force personnel to manage the influx of our new clients.
The income statement for Strategy 2 shows how this will create value for Brinks. Here you can see that revenues increased by about 40% from 2019 to 2020 and about 26% from 2020 to 2021. And this is also reflected in the bottom line. You can see that net income grows at a faster rate than revenue year over year. When we common size this income statement, we can see that the cost of revenues are decreasing year over year. And this is attributable to the inclusion of the cannabis services in Colorado Springs, which are about twice as profitable as the traditional banking services. And now I'll pass it off to Gio.
Thanks, Claire. I'll be talking about the combined results, taking the forecast from strategies 1 and 2 and adding it to the base case forecast. So what are we looking at here? At the end of the day, we see that revenues are increasing year over year. We also see increases in the cost of revenues year over year, but not in the same proportion as the annual revenue increases. The same idea goes for the SG&A expense line item. When we common size this income statement and look at the cost of revenues line item, we see a distinct downward trend year over year, and our strategies are helping drive that. Our strategies, along with the forecasted base case growth, are making Brinks more profitable at the margin. SG&A expenses are going down too, and this is attributable to the economies of scale that came out of the Dunbar acquisition and the profitability of the new cannabis service offering. Operating profit goes up accordingly, and that same trend is evidenced in net income as well. Net income or net profitability goes from about 0.71% in 2017 to just over 7% by 2021. In a 5-year span, that's quite a turnaround, and it's realistic and attainable. So through implementing both of these strategies, Brinks will generate additional net income of $32.36 million by 2021. Keeping in mind that Brinks is uniquely positioned from a tax perspective, their IRC tax selection on the Dunbar acquisition will allow them to retain any U.S. taxes that they would owe. In looking at the next 3 years, Brinks is projected to owe nearly $17.5 million in U.S. taxes, which they will keep. They can now use that money, along with the projected $66 million in additional retained earnings, to create a total net value of $83.25 million. Now I'll hand it over to Sam.
Thanks, Gio. So today we talked about two strategies. One grassroots and one, well, grass. Brinks will be able to create value through the implementation of these two strategies by satisfying its customers through more efficient processes, incentivizing its employees through additional perks and benefits, and rewarding its owners through increased dividends. So please join us as we haul Brinks into a very profitable future. Thank you, and we'll take any questions at this time.
Wow, nice job. Great research. I guess go back to their core values of Brinks, the cash piece, and when you think about the trucks and cash usage is a lot less. Any thoughts continuing to, outside of the marijuana piece, on what ultimately is going on with the cash piece outside of credit?
So the cash-based industries, we all know it's slowly going away. So when we were strategizing, we took that into consideration. We really focused the scope of the project in the short term, 3 to 5 years. And looking down the road, we think that as alternative forms of payment like cryptocurrencies or crypto cashes evolve, Brinks will be able to alter their value proposition for customers and provide services to secure digital currencies in the future.
One more time, when you presented this, you went completely on a different way that I ever thought you would go, and I think that's a genius way to kind of utilize what Brinks does already. So just a nice job bringing everything together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree. I think you guys are really innovative in your thinking here, so congratulations and bravo to you for that. Given that I'm in the financial services industry, though, my first reaction, and I don't know the answer to this, admittedly, is given that cannabis is still not federally legal, and all those financial institutions that are their current client base are, well, a broad majority of them will be federally regulated. Did you think about the impact on those current clients who, admittedly, the business that they're offering the company is declining because of the direction that cash payment is going, but still I wonder if there's a consideration that needs to be had about the impact of becoming so big in cannabis has on federally regulated businesses. Did you think about that at all?
Yep, so we did think about the federal regulation, and we met with an industry expert to talk about what the distribution channel looks like in the cannabis industry and how Brinks would be able to provide value. In looking at it, we saw that because there's federal regulations, Brinks technically in the US cannot touch the product itself. So that's why we wanted to orient the strategies toward the cash aspect. So that's number one. Number two is marked cars cannot transport these goods either because they're Schedule I federally illegal drugs. Brinks is regulated by the SEC. They can't actually touch the product, but they can touch the profits and the cash itself. So that's really our thinking in this strategy.
And just adding on to that, even from like an ethical standpoint with our current customers, we really tried to consider, where does this leave us? And we really considered medicinal marijuana in the same category as things like alcohol and tobacco. So in terms of, turning off our current customers and our current consumers, we really didn't see a huge issue with it.
Great job, guys. Did you get involved in the cost of liability insurance based on this change on business structure and moving to cannabis? And did that cost have any issue with moving, with that cash, drivers moving into, while they're not touching the product, they're still in the facilities where there is the product. So when they get involved in a kind of a shady situation, I'm sure there's liability issues there. Did you look at that at all?
Yes, we did. So what we were thinking about was we looked at their insurance coverage from the 10K, and Brinks has very stable insurance policies to cover all the banking institutions. We did assume that there would be increases in insurance coverage, and that's reflected in the pricing because, as Claire talked about, the pricing structure for this new strategy is almost twice the value that a bank would be charged per week in order to do this service. And that double profitability that we're getting from this strategy would be able to be put toward additional insurance costs, and it'll increase actually Brinks self-insurance as well because they do have a lot of cash reserves.
Great. And then just a secondary question, with cannabis, is there, looking down the road a little bit, where do you see it going? Because right now it's all cash. Do you expect that it is a strategy that'll be all cash 15 years from now, 20 years from now, or do you believe it'll change?
No, that's a great question. For the near future, just because of the federal and the state regulations within the U.S., it's going to stay cash for a good amount of time, which is why, when thinking of other strategies, we also considered the alternative digital and cryptocurrency payments, so when this tails off a little bit, we can come right in and swoop right in with a new innovative product line. That being said, cannabis has just been legal in Canada, and we're currently going through and doing these core services, and the cash influx in there has not yet decreased, so we're very... it looks good for us.
Great job, guys. I learned a lot about both industries this afternoon. Couple quick questions, because I don't know. Competition, is it regional? I mean, is it local companies? So you're talking about expanding. Who are you going up against in those markets? Not a specific company, but...
Yeah. Did you guys want to talk on it a little bit?
We're not really seeing a lot of competition, also because this is, like we said, it's a fairly new market. Things are just starting up. It's picking up traction. We're not really seeing a lot of competition, especially for Brinks, and we are such a well-established company that we don't really see anybody coming up to our standards. So we have not seen a lot, but I think Gio actually did some research and found a very, very small company in California that was doing something similar, but they don't match our size.
Okay. And then you guys just used the word infrastructure, but you didn't get too deep into it. So just two questions to that. Are you using existing routes that already are for the financial and retail industry now to start picking up the cash from the dispensaries, or is it something new that you're going to create so it's dedicated to that line of business? Because it seems like you've got independents who are owning dispensaries versus chains in a better financial reporting structure. So
So the focus we took on this was we thought cash is going down. These companies aren't operating at capacity. They probably have some slack in their operating capacities.
Yep.
So when we thought that, we said, let's look at existing routes where their existing infrastructure is, different Brinks and Dunbar locations, and let's see where the where the legal dispensaries that we can provide services to are. So we looked near our existing infrastructure. Could Brinks realistically service them? And we ultimately concluded yes, and we found a total of 1,800 dispensaries that we could service. And in each year of rolling out, it goes from, we service 16% of those in the first year, 25% in the second year, and 33% in year 3. And we expect it to grow in the future as well.
And just to add on to that, just to put it into perspective, when we're looking at dispensaries in Colorado, we're looking at the square footage being more than Starbucks and McDonald's combined. So with that being said, there's so many dispensaries in the state that with our current routes and where our operations are currently located, we will be able to service and capture a select amount of those dispensaries.
great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
just want to take a moment to thank everyone for coming out today. Thank you. Judges, hello. Everyone in the audience. I'm Ashley DeLuca.
I'm Sean Heslin.
I'm Erica Seitzinger.
And I'm Taylor Sweeney.
And before we get started, by a show of hands, how many of you are wearing a pair of shoes on your feet right now? And how many of you know the exact company that your shoes came from? And how many of you know who Genesco is? You may not know us. We did not know us 3 months ago. But today, we want to take you on our journey. So first, we're going to give you a company overview. Then we're going to take you through an internal and external analysis. We're going to take you through our 3 strategic initiatives, and we're going to wrap it up and open the floor to any questions that you may have. To get started, in 1934, the General Shoe Company was founded, now known as Genesco, operating 5 business segments: Journeys, Lids, Shoe, Johnson & Murphy, and Dockers license agreements with Dockers Shoes. Through these 5 segments, we operate through the United States, Puerto Rico, Canada, with the exception of our international segment, the Shoe Group. They are operated throughout the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Germany. We sell branded footwear, headwear, sports apparel, and accessories. So throughout these 5 segments, we operate a total of 2,694 retail locations with 30,500 employees, while generating a total of $2.9 billion of net sales. So what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our opportunities? And what are our threats? The Shoe Group, acquired by Genesco in 2011, is a strength for us. They have been steadily increasing over the years. A weakness: Lids Sports Group. They do not fit into the company's core competency. They are a headwear company. Our other 4 segments are a footwear company, and they have been steadily decreasing over the last 3 years. An opportunity: European markets. They have been steadily increasing in Ireland and Germany. And a threat: there has been decline in foot traffic in our U.S. locations and a rise in our e-commerce. So how can we use all of these to our advantage today? As the author Jim Collins once said, good is the enemy of great. So how can we as a company go from good to great? Off to Erica.
So our first initiative stems from the issue that Genesco has 4 thriving footwear segments and 1 declining headwear segment. Our objective, as Ashley said, is to rebrand Genesco to focus on our core competency of footwear. And by doing so, our strategy is to sell Lids Sports Group.
So as you can tell by our graph, Lids net sales over the past 3 years have been on a decline. And as a result, our earnings from operations have been $11 million in 2018 as compared to $82 million in 2013. We believe this decline in Lids is attributed to 3 things: the decline in foot traffic in malls, U.S. consumer trends have been more towards purchasing online and e-commerce, as well as trends, fashion trends have been declining the amount of sales that we have. So our goal for this strategy is to focus on gaining market share in the footwear industry, as well as rebranding Genesco into the footwear company that they once were. So the best way to accomplish this goal is by off-shipping our Lids segment and focusing on shoes. And we have valued through our research that Lids is valued at $250 million. So we put the gain of Lids into our net income, and you can see that we attributed $50 million over the next 5 years to the sale of Lids, totaling $250 million. We also see a $3.3 million increase in net sales just with off-shipping Lids. This is due to the average growth of Lids being significantly lower than our other segments, and also their average operating margin of Lids is significantly lower than our other 4 segments. So with this strategy of selling Lids, we will see an average sale growth of $4.68 million and an average operating margin of $4.32 million.
Our second initiative comes from this issue that though Shoe Group is very profitable, they have a very low face value of storefronts. Our objective is to make Shoe more well-known throughout Europe by expanding Shoe Group in Ireland and Germany. Our goal is to increase our global presence within the next 5 years. As you can see by this graphic, this is our projected growth through our store expansions. We aim to open in 11 regions throughout 5 years, so 55 brand new stores total. We chose these 11 regions because of their growing population, their increase in spending, as well as the fact that by 2021, the European footwear market is estimated to be worth about $50 billion.
So breaking down our finances for this strategy, our increase in sales is calculated by looking at how many sales we make when we open a new store. And this is a projected growth of 8% per year. So we looked at the trends for when we opened new stores in the past 5 years, and they're all growing at a steep rate. So we project that it's going to continue to grow at this 8%. Our increase in costs are just our average cost per store with additional $50,000 in the first year per store, and we're going to spend that on management training. So this additional cost goes hand in hand with our initiative to cut costs as we continue expanding. So as Erica mentioned, we're opening in 11 new regions and 55 new stores throughout the 5 years. So in the first year, we're going to be hiring one manager per region that by the end of the 5 years, they will be equipped and highly trained enough so that they can successfully manage all of the stores in their region, which will be 5 stores. So this will prove to be efficient and effective in cutting our costs and making this strategy just successful overall. And now we realize that through expanding through storefronts, it's going to take longer for us to generate sales. So in the first 2 years, we're not really making money, and we've calculated our break-even point to be 3.9 years. However, past the years of expansion, we're going to be seeing more growth as these stores become established and more customers come. And just the growth and the costs are going to go down in the future as well, so this is going to be beneficial. So checking out the effective strategy 1 and 2 within our company as a whole, our sales growth goes up to 5.98%, and our average operating margin goes up to 4.28%. So this is showing that we're profiting and growing our sales, and our net income is affected when we add in the effective strategy 2, which is providing $12 million in net income in the first 5 years, and as I said, that's projected to grow.
Our third and final initiative comes from the issue that Genesco has ineffective inventory management, and as well, they're experiencing a rise in online competition. Our objective with that is to improve Genesco's inventory turnover, as well as enhance their e-commerce presence online. Our strategy for that is to create an online discount website where we will sell off-seasonal brands and shoes at a discounted price. Going back to Genesco's roots, it will be called the General Shoe Company.
So through this strategy, we want to accomplish a few things. So first, we can look at the inventory turnover. You can see Genesco's inventory turnover is much lower than that of its competitors DSW, Foot Locker, and Zumiez. So this is a major issue, and we believe that through the General Shoe Company website, we can improve our inventory turnover by selling our off-season merchandise at a discount to get it off the shelves quicker. Secondly, we're going to increase our e-commerce presence to position ourselves towards the changing market trends, towards online shopping, and people really just like buying discounted products. And finally, we've found that there is no Genesco website that includes all of our segments. So in order to create brand unity, we feel as if the General Shoe Company will create that and put them all in one place, as well as increase our availability for our consumers who may not be able to afford our higher end brands that are more expensive. So now they have this option to purchase them at a discount.
So to calculate sales for this strategy, we use Nordstrom Rack as a comparison, and we use Nordstrom Rack because they are also a discount retailer. So we took Nordstrom Rack's e-commerce sales as a percentage of Nordstrom sales. And we used that percentage and multiplied it by Genesco's projected earnings for each year, and that's how we came up with our sales. For our operating margin, we used Zalando, which is a footwear retailer strictly online, which is what the strategy will be. And we used their percentage of 4.13%, but Zalando does not sell their products at a discount. So we had to take that into account. So we multiplied their earnings from operation times 0.8, 80%, to account for our 20% average discount per product. We also incorporated additional costs for operating the website, hiring more warehouse workers for our increase of sales, and also marketing costs.
So this is the effect on our company as a whole for all of these strategies. So we believe these initiatives are attainable and realistic within how Genesco has been growing and how we envision it to grow as a footwear company in the future. So our average sales growth is a total of 7.21% per year, and our average operating margin is 4.2%. Now, as we mentioned in the beginning, this is much higher than what would have happened if we would have let Genesco continue on its current trajectory. And the effect of our net income is a total of $277 million in the first 5 years, and you can see that reflected in the graph.
So to wrap it up in how all 3 of our strategies will affect our company, we thought about our customers, our employees, and our owners. At the end of the day, they are our stakeholders. They are what create value and make us better. So help us be good to great and put yourself in our shoes. Thank you.
Nice job, everyone. I have a few questions here. I'm trying to decide while I talk and stall where I want to start. I'll start with Europe. So you're looking at expanding stores in Europe, and I'm curious how much research you did on how Europeans are buying shoes, and if a storefront approach makes sense, or if becoming the Zappos of Europe is a reasonable consideration. So can you just talk about that, please?
Yeah, sure. So we definitely did some research on that. We found the declining foot traffic is specifically in U.S. malls, like the actual malls where you go in and like just go to shop. Shoe operates more of standalone stores. So like this is like within like European towns. So like Europe, they're more likely to go out and like shop and go out to eat and go sightsee and stuff. So our standalone stores are more desirable in Europe, and also Europeans have shown to spend more money on more money than the U.S. then specifically on their clothing and apparel. So their buying trends are more of like what they want, and U.S. people are more kind of tailored towards a little bit saving that money. So Europeans are their buying trends are pretty strong.
And to jump in right there, we did research Ireland and Germany. We do have a few stores in each location, but we figured we wanted to expand more and make our presence more known and our brand awareness. And with that being said, we did find that Germany and Ireland are both the leading countries for casual footwear compared to athletic footwear. So we figured we really wanted to create our presence, considering we did just acquire them in 2011. So we wanted to start out small, and as the years go on, keep it steady, and when the 5 years hit, maybe we can expand more if they're doing well. Additionally, we do have operating leases. So say our stores are not making as much money as we had hoped, we can back out of those if we're not making the profits that we wished.
Closing a store, of course, is a costly venture. So you want to get it right, obviously, so you don't have the cost to outfit the store and from the start, and then the cost to downsize. Of course, also taking into consideration, obviously, I don't know about the labor considerations in Germany and Ireland, but then you also have that potential cost related to downsizing people in those markets. So I also had a question about the General Shoe Company and who the target market is. I'm assuming that that's a U.S. focused venture, and help me if I missed it, but I heard a lot of brands, and then I heard General Shoe Company. And so is the intention for General Shoe Company, it just seems like it's yet another name and therefore confusing to the market. So are we creating an entity that doesn't necessarily need to be tied to the other brand names? Or if it's really supposed to consolidate it all, that just feels like another name that's getting thrown out there for consumers to get to know. And believe me, I love shoes, and I've never heard of Genesco.
So in 1934, they were known as the General Shoe Company, and now they're known as Genesco. And when I first heard about it, I had no idea what it was until I learned that they do own 4 shoe companies and a headwear company. With that being said, we want to rebrand ourselves to be known as the General Shoe Company, as selling lids that will show throughout our 4 segments and expanding the one, and really putting our focus towards our footwear segments. And I think that with that being said, just creating awareness is really important to our customers because they may not know about who we are and what we do. And that's why we would like to shift our name from Genesco to the General Shoe Company.
Going back on the target market, we were deciding on targeting like lower income people that maybe couldn't afford our regular shoes, because I know Johnson & Murphy, their shoes are pretty expensive. So if we put them on a discount, we think we could reach a wider audience.
Great job, guys. On the lids sale, did you look at potential buyers and who might purchase a company like that?
Yeah, we saw Fanatics was a potential option. They're strictly online, so the retail stores could enhance their portfolio for Fanatics.
Okay, and also, and we'll have to go back, but I think you put up a 4.68% growth in sales by selling lids, and I just want to understand, how do you lose the sales revenue of lids and have growth in sales? unless I misunderstood.
So we projected Lids to have a negative sales growth. Negative sales growth.
She set you up.
So we project them to have a negative sales growth over the next couple years, and also our operating margin for Lids was 1.5%, and for our other segments it was around 6% for each of them. So we think
But what is total sales for Lids?
Lids was total sales were 90.
Like 770 million.
Yeah.
So if you reduce $770 million out of your company, where do you get a 4.68% average sales growth? I'm just confused.
We took the weighted average of our other remaining.
So it's the remaining companies' sales
remaining
growth
segments. We took the weighted average of those segments.
without Lids.
Yes.
Gotcha. And then changing gears with the online company, did you look at other items? So you got shoes, and I know that's your market, and that's where you're concentrating. Did you look at socks? Did you look at laces? Did you look at any other strategies to grow sales?
Yeah, we kind of did. We kind of just definitely wanted to focus on just shoes for this initiative because just like the whole Europe venture and with like the General Shoe Company, putting everything together, like we just want everyone to know who we are as a company first, and then maybe we'll look into something in the future with potential for socks and other accessories, but shoes was our main focus.
Great, thank you.
Great job, guys. I would add to Paul's there. I mean, it does seem like your competition is pretty well diversified. I mean, you guys highlighted on slide 14, DSW, Foot Locker, and Zoomies. I mean, they do have other product lines, so something to certainly consider. How are the other four operating segments performing? So you highlighted the decline of Lids to sell them, but how are they performing? I mean, because have they seen the same impact of the malls and the e-commerce?
Yeah, I think that, Lids was clearly our weak link. We projected a negative sales growth as their sales have been declining. Journeys has been moving up. We're expecting them to have a 5.33% sales growth. Johnson Murphy as well, high sales growth. And same with Shoe.
Yeah, everything stayed pretty solid, and shoe has specifically been like increasing because one reason we found was in Europe they sell a lot of like Puma, Adidas, and then like a lot of like Birkenstock and like leather stuff, but our shoe segment sells more American brands like Converse, Vans, Timberlands, and that's something that's not really accessible in Europe. So that was kind of a reason why we attributed that it's been growing, because we offer something that is not currently there.
Cool. And my last question is just under your weakness, y'all listed third-party manufacturers, but now you want to expand even more. So does that weakness become a greater weakness, or is it something of future consideration for what you're going to do in Europe, et cetera? I know it's a bit of a tough one, but just maybe a caution or just a call out because it could come back and bite you.
Yeah, definitely. We didn't think about that, but we definitely could in the future.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. The fourth guy always gets it. I want to go back to e-commerce. So when you think about shoes and you think about loyalty, we're all branded, so we know what we want and how we want it. You didn't really talk too much about your e-commerce strategy outside of selling some discounted shoes. So what's your focus there? Because same thing, I've never heard of Shoe and Genesco and...
Right, so we wanted to actually put $500,000 a year to our General Shoe Company website. A lot of that, we figured each of our segments has a sale tab on their website. Now, no one knows that Journeys is owned by Genesco and Lids is owned by Genesco. So we figured we can redirect that sale, not that it would be a lot of costs, but we can redirect that sales tab to go to our discounted website to begin with. Then secondly, we can do it, we can advertise through social media. So our advertising agency can do Facebook, Twitter, Instagram by keeping up with each of our target markets. So each segment has a different market. Lastly, we also thought paid ads on Google. So if you were searching discounted shoes, us and DSW maybe would come up as the first on Google. And that can be very cost effective and efficient for us as a company to create brand awareness. And lastly, if we were to send out a pair of shoes from our company, we could put a bounce back coupon in the box, and when they receive it, they can redeem that coupon by coming into our stores. So that can get our foot traffic also to rise in the future and hopefully pick back up and keep our brand awareness going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So Genesco is our fifth presentation. We're now going to take a 15-minute break, and we'll come back. We'll restart at 5:30. Where's mine? You guys want this or no? No? Oh. Oh, theirs. Oh, you're taking a picture. Which one is yours? No problem. Okay. We're ready to get started with the second half of our program. The remaining 4 presentations. So the team SCI, please come to the floor.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. We are Service Corporation International. I'm Jill Bateman.
I'm Olivia Adams.
I'm Riley McHugh.
I'm Colton Terry.
And I'm Cooper Ludwig.
So before we get into our presentation, we're going to go over a brief agenda. We'll start by introducing our company, then going into a SWOT analysis, followed by an external audit, our strategic plan, our objectives, strategies, a 3-year forecasted income statement, and finally a summary.
So who are we? We are Service Corporation International. We are North America's largest consolidated death care services provider with over 1,400 funeral service locations and over 400 cemetery locations. We currently have $3 billion in revenue with a 12% market share, while 86% of the market is owned by privately owned and operated funeral service companies. And then the other 2% is attributed to our 2 competitors, Stonemore and Carriage Services, which each have 1% each. And I guess you could say we're killing the competition. And then, and we also have a large brand portfolio, which caters to the population's needs.
Thanks for that, Coop. All right, so what are some of SCI strengths? So first, we are geographically diverse. We have various brands under our wing, and we have low SG&A costs compared to our competitors. But most importantly, we are a costlier industry, and that's very important to understand.
So some of SCI's weaknesses, the smallest weakness that they have is that they have high debt compared to their competitors. However, debt is common industry-wide, so it's not a huge weakness, but because they do have more than their competitors, it's a small weakness to consider. Our biggest weakness is that SCI traditionally has relied on their funeral segment revenue, which is made up of traditional burial revenue as well as cremation revenue, and the industry is experiencing a shift to cremation revenue, which we will talk about later why this is a weakness.
And then some opportunities we have is memorialization. With memorialization, we can increase our opportunities here to increase our revenue per cremation. And then the big one here is the changing consumer demands from the traditional services to the cremation services, which is very disruptive in the industry.
And some of our threats are that our competitors are also focusing on cremation and the rise in cremation in the industry, but we're most focused on how they're innovating around those cremation services that they're offering.
So from our external audit, we have found that the biggest strategic issues that SCI faces come from this shift in cremation demand that is industry disruptive because cremation is such a lower revenue service for the company. As you can see in the chart on the right, burial rates are declining in the dark green and the cremation rate is rising in the light green. By 2020, this industry cremation rate is expected to reach 60%, while SCI forecasted right now will reach a cremation rate of 57%.
Thanks, Riley. So from our internal and external audit, we have defined the strategic issue facing Service Corporation International, and that is how can SCI maintain its current market share given the growing shift in the death care services market? Our first objective that we have defined to combat this issue is to increase our target market revenue to 1.75% of cremation revenue by 2021 while maintaining overall revenue growth. And our strategy to do this is market penetration in the cremation sector.
Our second objective to combat this issue is we're going to increase market share in cremation by 25% by 2021. Then the strategy to tackle this objective would be to increase memorialization opportunities for our target market.
Now you may have heard us mention a target market, and you may be wondering, why would you only implement your strategy in a target market? Through extensive research of our company, we determined that we live in a country where there are various cultural preferences. It wouldn't make sense to implement a cremation strategy in the southeastern United States that is traditionally very traditional when it comes to funeral services. Because of this, we decided to implement our strategy solely in these states to start off because they are the states with the highest cremation rates and are great indicators as to where cremation is going in the future.
So as Liv stated, our average cremation rate in our target market is 71%. And the chart to the left shows two outcomes. The outcome highlighted in light green shows SDI's revenues that they would assume from this segment. The outcome highlighted in dark green shows SDI's revenues that they will assume from this segment if they are able to meet the demand for 71% cremation in this target market. By meeting this objective, by meeting this demand in our target market, we are able to achieve our objective of increasing our cremation revenue as a total percent of cremation revenue, specifically from our target market to that specifically identified 1.75%. And this right here just shows our specific revenue increases that we would see in our target market and the percentage that it is over what we would historically be assuming if we were not to meet the demand in the target market.
So you might be wondering, how are we going to achieve this market penetration in the cremation sector? We're going to be doing this by divesting 10% of our undeveloped land, which currently has a value of $1.2 billion, which will be going to traditional services. Based off of that 10% divestiture, we're going to be getting $118 million in order to fund this project. And if it works, we're going to use that other additional revenue to fund it in other target markets. But based off of that divestiture of that 10%, we're going to use $8.52 million to invest in the cremation equipment to then outfit our homes in the target markets that do not currently have the cremation capabilities.
Now to go more in depth into our second objective, we're going to increase SCI's market share by 25% by 2021. And the reason for this is because cremation by itself is a low revenue service. And with offering more memorialization items, we're going to bridge the gap in that revenue. And as you can see from 2017 to 2021, light green represents the cremation rate without memorialization items offered. And the darker green represents the cremation rate with memorialization items offered.
So our strategy in order to increase our market share is to exploit our memorialization opportunities to adjust for the revenue that we are losing with the increasing demand. So in the chart on the right, you can see the 3 tiers of memorialization products that SCI actually offers. And we got this from speaking with a representative from the company. And our strategy is to increase sales in our memorialization products by implementing employee training to train our employees on sales tactics. Basically, so that customers are more aware, we found a statistic that at least 60% of customers would be more likely to purchase memorialization products if they were more aware of it.
Now, we've been mentioning memorialization items this whole presentation, so I'm going to explain what they are. So for one, they consist of pendants, rings, necklaces, watches, as well as you can have your remains put into burial of a tree. And in Florida, we're experimenting with the option of having your remains put in a coral reef to have that long-lasting memory for your friend or family.
And so we wanted to kind of show our strategies as compared to our 3-year forecasted income statement. So in the first red box, you can see our target market increase in revenue represented in that top line item.
We also wanted to highlight the memorialization increase in revenue, which is the significant amount of our forecasted revenue growth.
We also want to note that our net income will be increasing with the implementation of our strategy, but most importantly, we would like to note down here in red that from our pro forma net income, if we did not implement this strategy, our growth would be decreasing. But then, as you can see at the bottom, with the implementation of our strategy, we will be growing our net income. So in summary, the future is cremation.
SCI needs to hold market share while growing with the industry.
Revenue growth and memorialization opportunities allow us to achieve this.
And the best part is our strategy pays for itself.
We would like to thank you for your time and attention. We hope we didn't bore you to death, but if we did, choose SCI.
Great job, everyone. On your financials, I think your equipment on the cremation equipment was 8.6 or something like that. Your depreciation over the 3 years you showed did not come up to that amount. Is it carry forward in more years, or
Yes,
is
carry forward.
okay? So you're going depreciating over 5 or 10. Yes. Okay. On the marketing side, did you think about any specific marketing programs of, nursing homes, or how are you getting the message out that you are changing and offering these services? What type of marketing are you doing?
Yeah, so we're starting out with training our sales representatives. So these sales representatives already have their areas where they're going to, and that does include things like nursing homes. We want to make sure that they are trained in understanding that if they show people these memorialization opportunities, people understand the opportunities that we are giving them, they'll be more likely to buy them, because we did find that statistic that 60% of people will buy the products when given the information about them. So that's kind of how we're going to start out, with just making sure that our customers are aware.
And is there any looking at the traditional, I assume in this industry, people pre-buy plots of land and whatnot as the change occurs? Are you going back to that customer base and checking in with them and saying, this is also an option if you prefer?
Yeah, so that kind of wasn't our plan. I mean, we do still want to maximize our revenues that we're getting from our customers who are choosing the traditional route, in that right now they are more profitable. But for the consumers who maybe are looking for that different option, something where it is cremation, they're able to kind of do something different with the remains. That's the market that we're starting in. So we don't want to take away from our revenues that we would be assuming from that traditional market.
Good answer. Thanks.
Great job, guys. Interesting topic for sure. Couple questions. You mentioned in the weakness that debt is common in the industry. Why? Like, where's the debt coming from?
Yeah, so the industry wide, there's a lot of debt because it's, you own a lot of locations, you have a lot of assets, there's a lot of depreciation and things with that. So the industry as a whole is high fixed cost industry.
Yes, so that's what I figured. So then you want to equip the homes with more equipment for cremation. Do you need all almost 1,500 locations? I mean, would that be considered something you can consolidate if it's moving towards cremation? I was a little confused on that.
Well, we're currently testing out We're currently testing out this strategy in the 3 years in those 5 states in those target markets where cremation is highest currently. And then if it is successful, we'll continue that into the other target markets that have high cremation rates that are also rising.
Okay, and then what was the difference between traditional versus cremation for terms of cost to, I don't want to say consumer, but...
Yeah, so cost to customer, we could just say that.
Yeah.
For the cost to customer, it's basically half the cost for cremation than it is traditional.
Okay.
So the customer's going to be saving a lot more money than they would if they were to go to the traditional route.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yep.
Let me see where I start here. I guess when I look at the changing consumer demands, and it's tough to kind of call, is there any other revenue streams? But based on having the equipment, I'm not sure if they offer the services potentially to pets, because that's a huge upcoming market, or as I see a chuckle up there. Thoughts on that?
Yes, we actually talked about that a great deal, and that was also one of our strategies as well, to increase our revenue. But we figured we had to narrow it down, and this is the best route that we could figure.
Would it be cost effective though when you looked into it? When you looked into a little bit based on the market?
It's like a niche market kind of for people that want to get, say, buried or cremated with their pet.
Yep.
But
the box comes nice too.
Yes,
but you get the memories.
Yeah. So there is a niche market for that, but right now this is what we're seeing as a disruptive thing that's happening in our industry. So we're going with this route. But that's also something we could also implement too.
I think on the training piece too, go back to selling the services. I want to follow back up on that. What type of training program, and how will you measure the impact of that piece?
In regards to the training program, we want to focus on knowing the right people to talk to about this. We did some cultural analysis, and there are different cultures are more ready for cremation than others. You want to make sure that you're giving the opportunity to the right people, and you don't want to give the opportunity. You don't want to push the opportunity on the wrong people, and that's kind of a way that we're going to retain our customers, because they'll understand that SCI is giving them these great opportunities for what they want, and not just forcing what we think is going to be best for our company.
Nice job.
So I'm a little stuck on memorialization, because I believe you led with keychains. So is this a vision of having Grandpa in a keychain? Okay, interesting. So what? Right. Thankfully. So what is the average, and I'm not looking at what you have up here necessarily, but I'm just trying to understand what the average revenue is on these memorialization products. I mean, how much growth does that really provide on top of cremation?
Yeah, so like we said, we have the 3 tiers that SCI currently offers. They have like a bottom, middle, and high tier for memorialization products. And we base all of our financial assumptions on the fact that roughly 60% of customers would choose more memorialization products if they were more aware of them. So I think that was our thinking in that it would increase the revenue through the memorialization products because they are higher margin.
And increasingly, like going along with that, you can see here we took out the cost of cremation because you can just get cremated and not have that memorialization piece paired along with it. So in taking out those costs, we're able to actually forecast what the revenue specifically just from the memorialization products and the increase in memorialization products would be.
Okay. So that 650 is essentially your bottom basement keychain and whatever else.
So that would be like your lower tier option where, say you're just having someone, you're renting a casket, to use for the viewing. That's your opportunity to do that. Whereas the heritage option gives you more memorialization options paired with it, such as pairing it with an urn or pairing it with other things that are a little bit more premium, I guess you could say. But certain customers, they just want to have a viewing and that's it, and they don't want anything else. So that's why it's awesome that they have those tiers because the choice is really left up to the customer.
Okay. And so then long term, so when you look at some of these markets, that shift to cremation is significant. And so, forgive me, I'm not familiar with, I assume that there's, sort of an annuity on having somebody in the ground, there's got to be some payment over some time for the cost to maintain that particular cemetery. This is clearly once and done. So moving towards that kind of a market, what's the long term for death care? So I know that there has been significant consolidation up to now. Do you envision more consolidation? And ultimately, are we really looking at a much thinner market for post-life opportunities?
Well, our industry is characterized by being highly fragmented, with that 86% of the market share being taken by those privately owned and operated firms. So I guess to answer your question, yes, you're going to see a lot more consolidation and also a lot more of these firms popping up because of how much opportunity there is, because people love going to their local, don't love, but you know what I mean? They have their first option is to go to their local funeral home or parlor or whatever term you'd like to use. So that's basically yes.
So you're anticipating that there's a point, cremation can take you to a point, and then beyond that, you need to acquire? Is that my understanding?
Yeah, and acquisition it's one of SCI's strengths. So they do serve as a financial umbrella for a lot of smaller firms and some of those private, private funeral homes they have acquired in the past. And it's attractive to the small local, funeral home to have that financial security with SCI. So I don't know if that helps to answer your question in a way.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Chef's Warehouse, and we have prepared a decadent presentation for you tonight. We will be your host for the evening. My name is Olivia Lobenstein.
I'm Kyle Isley.
I'm Donald Morris.
My name is Alyssa Chicolo.
And I'm Cameron Flowers. Let's get sizzling. So on the menu for you today, we're going to start off with our appetizers, which include our company overview and introduction, followed by our main entree of our issues and objectives, as well as our strategies, followed up by a dessert of value creation, conclusions, and any questions you have. Hope you enjoy. So a little about Chef's Warehouse. We're a high-end food distributor that distributes high-quality, localized, and artisanal foods to high-end eating establishments such as restaurants, casinos, and other gourmet caterers. We are headquartered in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and we were founded in 1985. This is our distribution map. The dark gray areas represents the states of which we have reach. We are heavily located on the West Coast, Great Lakes region, and Northeast regions of the United States, and we have 27 distribution centers across our 9 distribution partners.
To talk about our performance, we have grown exponentially in sales from 2013 to 2017, but as far as net income, we experienced a slight dip in 2016 due to our acquisition of Del Monte Meats. This had increased our debt expense by $30 million, and Kyle will speak more about this in our next slide.
As you can see here, the Chef's Warehouse has to deal with a lot of long-term debt. You'll see a significant increase from the years 2014 to 2015 in their long-term debt, which is due to the fact that Chef's Warehouse finances a lot of their acquisitions through debt.
So a quick overview of our SWOT analysis. The underlying bullet points in each box represents the areas that we focused our issues, objectives, and strategies on. For our strengths, we have very high menu diversity. For our weakness, we are a highly leveraged company. For opportunities, we decided to focus on e-commerce growth and local food trends. For our threats, we have price volatility of supplies. And then based on this, we developed our 3 key strategies. The first is divesting Cuisina, one of our food distributors, out of Canada. The second is fully integrating our e-commerce platform for all 9 of our distributors. Lastly, acquiring Louisiana Seafood Exchange in the Southeast region of the U.S.
The Chef's Warehouse has identified 4 main strategic issues to focus on. The first has to do with what I've already discussed, the fact that they're highly leveraged, which inhibits their ability to grow through acquisitions. And the second has to do with the increased use of e-commerce, which is a trend that has affected markets internationally.
Our third issue is our incomplete geographic footprint. As I mentioned on the distributor map, we are highly located on the West Coast, Great Lakes, and Northeast region of the United States. However, we have little to no reach in the regions of the Midwest and Southeast. This is crucial as each region has their own specific food trends, which leads into our fourth issue of changing consumer palates. Each area has their own food trends, styles, and ethnic cuisines that they like to enjoy. While Chef's Warehouse already does a very good job of keeping up to date on these, going into new areas, we have to keep this up and focus more. And now Dawn and Alyssa are going to take us through our first strategy.
So looking at that high leverage that we've talked so much about, we're going to divest in an underperforming distributor in 2018, and we're going to take that money and allocate it towards lowering our debt.
This is our family member, Cuisina. We acquired them in 2014. They do high-end confectionery work, and as of right now, they do 4.76% of our overall sales as a company. They have operations right now in Florida of America and in British Columbia, as well as Alberta, Canada.
To give you a visualization of what their distribution centers look like, we have the 2 in Canada and the 1 in Florida. And as we carry out this strategy, these will be divested so that we can focus on our domestic sales overall. Looking at the trends for the industry overall, you can see that in Canada, the retail sales for confectionery products has been extremely stagnant in the last 4 years, which is when we've been operating in Canada. And this has only grown at about 1% over that course of time, which is detrimental for our 2 distribution centers that we have there.
This is a heat map of where Cuisina is currently functioning, and the darker the red means that we have a higher volume of sales in that area. So as you can see, our Florida distribution center is greatly outperforming either distribution center in Canada. On top of that, Chef's Warehouse has a mission statement to provide localized artisan foods to our customers. Because Cuisina was originated in Florida, it doesn't make sense for us to not only take this distributor across the country of America, but now into a different country, into Canada.
So looking at how we valued this divestiture, we came to a valuation of $8.2 million, which we're gonna allocate towards our debt. As you can see from the table on the left, this is how Chef's Warehouse has planned to pay off their long-term debt for the next 5 years. And with this $8.2 million that we're gonna make, we're gonna put that towards our long-term debt and increase our payment periods by 2.4 years. This is going to be really beneficial for Chef's Warehouse so they have more time to allocate their funds appropriately, and they have more time to focus on that net profit margin, which they've been struggling with as we talked about in the past. Next, Kyle and Olivia are going to talk about our next strategy.
For our second strategy, we're going to play into the increased use of e-commerce. To do this, we're going to expand our platform and grow from an annual 5% to an annual 15% by fiscal year end of 2022.
In order to address this strategic issue and achieve our objective, the Chef's Warehouse is going to implement a fully integrated e-commerce platform, taking our 1 current distributor, Allen Brothers, and implementing the other 8 distributors onto the same e-commerce platform.
Again, this is where we operate in the United States. The dark gray states are where our distribution centers are located. And within these states, we hope to grow even more by acquiring new customers in these red circles as shown on the screen. Now, let's look at an example, shall we? Let's say that Chef's Warehouse wanted to serve Al's Waterfront Restaurant near St. Louis, Missouri. If they wanted to try out our products, they'd have to get in their car, drive 7 hours all the way across the state, get to us, see if they like our products, see how we operate, and decide if they want to do business. Then they'd have to turn right around, make the same 7-hour drive, and meanwhile miss out on some of their business. And if they ever wanted to change up their product mix, they'd have to do the same thing all over again.
So how does this add convenience? Well, let me tell you. First and foremost, you could cross off that ridiculous drive from your to-do list. In addition to that, you don't even have to leave your business or pick up the phone. All you have to do is utilize Chef's Warehouse e-commerce platform. You can look at their products, and you can even have samples sent directly to you. We believe that through these points of convenience, we'll be able to acquire new customers. If you look at the chart on the right, you'll see the amount of new customers necessary in order to hit our target financial projections. While these numbers may seem a little ambitious, when you take into consideration the fact that we have 28,000 customers currently, these numbers are only a very small incremental increase in our customer acquisition each year. We believe that we can acquire these people through an increased opportunity for our sales rep to achieve their commission goals, along with a direct mailing campaign that Olivia will now talk about.
As Kyle mentioned, we do plan to do a direct mailing campaign. This is our flyer that we'll be sending out. The front just raises awareness for our expanded platform with a website at the bottom. The back includes our sales rep information, so if they do want to reach out and have a conversation, they do have that option. By sending these out, we hope to have a 4.4% return rate with 10% closing rate based off of industry averages. This is our pro forma for the strategy. In the first year, we do expect to have a lower net income due to the marketing costs we are going to take on. But looking forward, as Kyle had mentioned, we do have aggressive numbers based off of our research that we did with acquiring these new customers. Now going on, Donald and Melissa will take on our third strategy.
We have 2 issues left for the Chef's Warehouse, which includes our incomplete geographic footprint and changing consumer palates in the marketplace right now. We plan on tackling these last 2 issues with one objective, which is to acquire a new distributor in a new geographic region by the end of the fiscal year of 2018.
Again, this is where we operate across the United States, and as Cameron has pointed out before, we're vastly missing our operations in the Midwest and in the Southeast. And as a result of that, we're going to acquire Louisiana Seafood Exchange. It's a high-quality premier seafood distributor located in New Orleans, Louisiana. They have 1 distribution center there. We think that they align great with our mission and vision statements because they really pride themselves on local and ethnic sourcing of their Cajun, Creole, center-of-the-plate foods. We also really value this customer because we believe that they have long-lasting relationships, which is so important for our company because that means we're going to be able to maintain our consumers that we get from them over a long period of time. And finally, they're the first distribution center in the entire state to receive USDC sanitary certification, and this shows that they truly are dedicated to the quality of their products.
Here's a trend going on in the marketplace right now, and this is for flavor infusions and staple foods. This preference of a 42% increase in Cajun and Creole influences is an interesting right now in the market that we're going to be paying attention to. Moving forward, this map with the blue states shaded in shows you where Chef's Warehouse currently functions in America. When we take in Louisiana Seafood Exchange, we'll be picking up 3 more states, which includes Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. This not only helps us complete our geographic footprint better, but it takes in that trend of the Cajun Creole influences that we want to address.
So how did we value this acquisition? We looked at the 2017 sales and we looked at the 1 distribution center. Being that this company is private, we looked at 3 international comparables of companies that do similar seafood distribution to come to a final valuation of around $20 million. But looking at industry trends for small seafood distributors around Louisiana, we found that an acquisition premium of around 10% was appropriate for this company, so we came to a final valuation of around $22 million, which we are going to finance entirely through cash so that this company can focus on the solvency of the company and make sure that we're focusing on that net profit margin that I've mentioned before.
Here's our final pro forma for this acquisition. As you can see, our net income, that bottom line, is steadily increasing throughout our projected years. On top of that, we'd like to integrate Louisiana Seafood Exchange onto our revamped e-commerce platform, so we have included those sales into this pro forma as well.
Looking at how these sales are going to be affected over the course of 5 years, you can see that these 3 strategies played into a large increase in our net sales over the course of the 5 years over our base projections. And that net profit margin that I've told you we've been so worried about, that's not a problem anymore. We're going to make sure that these strategies are increasing our net profit margin and increasing our bottom line over 24% of base, which is shown by the blue, with the use of our strategies shown by the red. So that won't be a problem for us anymore.
And with proper implementation of our 3 new strategies, we believe we have created new value for our 3 key stakeholders. For our employees, we've created new financial initiatives for achievement. For our customers, a better ease of access to existing food products and distribution centers. For our owners, we've increased their bottom line.
From this presentation, that you have learned that Chef's Warehouse has 4 strategic issues. In order to attack these issues, we're going to divest in Cuisina's international operations in Canada, we're going to revamp our e-commerce platform, and we're going to acquire Louisiana Seafood Exchange.
We hope you enjoyed your meal, and thank you for dining with us today.
Nice job, guys. I was wondering, just for clarification before I ask about the seafood company, what is the mix of what they're carrying? Like, when you said artisan cheeses and the meat company, I mean, what does that mix look like? Do you have a chart or a breakdown, of what they're selling the majority of?
So looking at our product breakdown, we can see that we have mainly center of the plate options. So this is really important because this is 50% of our business, which is important because this is like the main dishes. These are your main meats, your main cheeses, your main foods. Typically, Chef's Warehouse is thought of as someone who distributes chef supplies, but that only accounts for around 1 to 2% of our industry. So what we really focus on here is that center of the plate, and then some of the other things such as sides and other important things like that will make up that other 50%, but at lower percentages. So what we really focus on the most is the center of the plate main ingredients for the dish.
Yeah, great answer. The reason I was asking is, a lot of food service restaurants want to limit the amount of suppliers based on who they've coming in, so they like your one-stop shop. And just taking on seafood, freshness, where it's coming from, how you're going to expand that is why I was asking the question. Other thing, just real quick, was there a sales force you had on the card? It says rep name, rep number. What does their sales force look like today? You had the great graphic of them driving 8 hours, but generally they're making the calls to the individual restaurants or partners.
Yeah, so we have around 2,000 sales reps actually, and they all have further education into the food industry. So some of them even have a master's degree in either culinary sets of skills and all of that kind of stuff. Some of them have worked in the restaurant industry before, so they're all highly educated workforce for our salespeople. And like I said, it's around 2,000 salespeople.
Great, thank you.
How do you keep up on the times of what's going on with the food trends? I like where you went with the Creole and the Cajun because that's becoming increasingly hot, but how do you continue to kind of garnish the market research and where you want to grow?
So we have a really great function where we're very customer oriented, and what I mean by that is for some of our customers, they have really specific needs. So if we don't carry something, for example, and it's a trend right now, so recently truffles have been really in, we'll actually go find those specific truffles that you're looking for and get them to our customer. So it's really we have a really great inventory turnover factor where we're scalable, and so because of that, we take in these new trends and we're willing to work with our customers and all that different types of trends that are going on in the market to make sure that our customers are getting what they need to get. On top of that, we have over 200 different types of olive oil because that was a trend recently. So we keep on top of it in that type of way. Based off of our competitors, our inventory turnover is a little bit lower because of those trends. So I can see where you're saying it might hurt our company, but we think it's a really important aspect to keep on top of it. So it's actually been a benefit for us and a strength in the long run.
In regards to the mailer, is this going to existing customers or just going to new customers?
So the new mailer is actually going to be targeted at customers we don't work with that are outside of our geographic region because we believe that with our e-commerce strategy, we'd be able to work with those customers that aren't within the reps region where they can drive or we deliver to currently. So that's going to be directly targeted at customers that we don't have in hopes that we would acquire them in the future.
Yeah, you talked about the return on the investment on that, but do you have an idea of a cost or what you'd be looking to market?
So in speaking with a professional printer, we found out that a lot of these costs associated with some of these things came to around $640 for 1,000 of these mailers. And in the first year alone, we plan to send out 7,500 of those, which we have calculated in calculating our revenue projections and our cost projections for this. But a lot of those costs really are very minute in terms of direct mailing because in speaking with the printer, we found that direct mailing costs are going down since the trend in marketing online and marketing virtually is going up, the direct mailing costs are going down.
I actually like your target approach on that with the going kind of less at the customers and using email as email, but kind of targeting this at a specific group. So good answer.
I wanted to talk to you about your thoughts on debt. So you wanted to sell a portion of your business and retire debt. Certainly debt has a place in capital structure. And then you want to, what are you doing? You're expanding using cash, it sounds like. You don't have a ton of cash on your balance sheet, so just want to talk to you how you thought through your capital structure.
Sure. So looking at our long-term debt overall, we realized that that was going to be a pinch for any strategy that we might have moving forward because of the expenditures that might come along with that. So in developing a strategy that helps to lower the debt and another strategy that is funded entirely through cash, we're making sure that we're mitigating a lot of that. Our long-term debt, as it is a problem for us, and moving forward, our company is working to really work on refinancing that. And based on our performance, which you saw in the beginning, we did have that dip in 2016 in our net income, but we were able to bring that up in the following year by working with the institutions from which we received these loans and working on refinancing a lot of our debt as well to bring down this expense and to bring up our net income. So it is something that Chef's Warehouse is focused on a lot and are aware that it's a problem in moving forward.
So on the e-commerce strategy, can you just explain a little bit more? So you're grabbing a new customer through the website, they're farther away. How are you distributing that product?
So in looking at the geographic distribution map that we already have, the red circles that we showed are where we currently distribute to, and we really looked at the amount of customers and the amount of restaurants and high-end food serving industries that are there, so that we're making sure that these are already on our distribution routes, these are already in areas to which we distribute. And when Kyle mentioned earlier that it was out of our geographic range, it was more directed towards the customers that we already have. And so we're really trying to work on those, using those distribution routes and finding the same types of customers along them that we don't currently access because they're discouraged and driving the long distance to their nearest distributor that they might have, or finding a distribution center that might fit their needs. They may have one that's near them that doesn't have the same type of center of the plate in which their companies operate. And so this mitigates a lot of the problems of us not being able to offer the products to them based on geography.
So the warehouse that it's coming from, that's 7 hours away, you're trucking that product from the warehouse to the 7 hours away?
Yes, we already distribute to other restaurants in that area. The one we used was just an example, yeah.
Are you selling Chef's Warehouse products out of the Louisiana acquisition, or are you just keeping that strictly Louisiana?
So we like to keep our different, we call them family members. We like to keep them on their own separate level. The one difference we have is like when we acquire a new distributor, we take down their website. So if you were to search like Allen Brothers, which is one of our new distributors, it would take you to the Chef's Warehouse website. For the e-commerce like purpose from that point of view, it would be under the Chef's Warehouse name, but they keep their own identity. They keep all of their customers that they currently have, and we don't take over that name. So we like to keep them on their own separate level.
And you stepped right into that question because you're going to go e-commerce, you're going to have a website. Now I'm near the Louisiana acquisition. What is my website going to offer? Is it everything, or is it just what's there, and how does that whole website management work? So each area that you're trying to get out your word on e-commerce is manageable.
Yeah, so like I said, as of right now, like if we acquired Louisiana Seafood Exchange and then you Googled them afterwards, it would take you to Chef's Warehouse's website. And so it wouldn't specifically say Louisiana Seafood Exchange anymore, but we do have something that's labeled in the corner where it would say like this is a Louisiana Seafood
But if
product.
I'm a customer in the Louisiana territory of their distribution and it takes me to the Chef's Warehouse website, do you see my question with product?
Yeah, and thinking about this, we thought about the scalable inventory system that we have and the fact that we're able to do a 12 to 24-hour turnover in our products. And so if you were a customer of Louisiana Seafood Exchange, you'd be going to the website and say there is something that you saw that caught your interest that kind of is different than that you already get through the center of the plate options that Louisiana has. We work with that scalable inventory system, being that we're so integrated throughout the United States as a whole, that this would be a lot easier for us to make sure that it's scalable. And then we also have a lot of distribution centers that are generally called Chef's Warehouse, and so they don't specialize necessarily in one type of food for requests like this, so that we can work with that inventory system to get that center of the plate option to the consumer that wants whatever product it may be.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry.
Great job. That's all right. Very good.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ariana Flynn.
I'm Josh Bostrom.
I'm Matt Dangler.
I'm Lucas Rollins.
And I'm Mike Levstration.
And we are very excited to present our strategic ideas for Hostess Brands Incorporated today. We're going to begin with a company overview and then followed by the results of our internal and external analysis. And then we are going to walk you through our strategy and along with our financials. Hostess Brands Incorporated was founded in 1919 with the invention of the Hostess cupcake. Hostess is a leader in the sweet baked goods category, a segment within the consumer packaged goods industry. Hostess manufactures a variety of iconic brands such as Twinkies, Ho-Hos, Ding Dongs, cupcakes, and other delicious treats. Hostess recently emerged from its second bankruptcy and relaunched its IPO in late 2016. Since the company emerged from bankruptcy, they have seen positive financial growth and they are eager to enter into new markets. With that being said, Hostess, we are going to unwrap this presentation with a question. How can Hostess exploit its competitive advantage in new markets?
So we wanted to first start with a SWOT analysis of Hostess Brands. So after internally analyzing Hostess Brands, we came up with the following strengths and weaknesses. Hostess Brands is an iconic brand with significant brand recognition throughout the U.S. They also have a superior operating efficiency to that of their main competitors. After analyzing Hostess externally, we came up with the following opportunities and threats. Hostess Brands has the opportunity of new market entry into things such as foreign markets, which we will get into later. And finally, for threats, they have a dependence on some of their top buyers, including Walmart. And finally, they have a changing consumer preferences in the U.S. I'm now going to hand it off to Lucas to talk about our strategic issues.
All right, so after performing our internal and external analysis, we were able to find two key issues that Hostess faces. From those issues, we were able to create our strategic objectives and ultimately our main strategy. So, issue number one, buyer power. Hostess generates a majority of its total net revenue from its top 10 customers. More specifically, their top 10 customers results in 60% of their total net revenue. And if we take a deeper look into those customers, there's really one that sticks out, and that's Walmart. Walmart represents about a quarter of Hostess's total net revenue. And the dependency on one customer for such a large amount of revenue is bad, and it already has started to cause problems in the newly restructured company.
The second strategic issue that Hostess is facing is the change in consumer preferences in the United States. The sweet baked goods market is continuously being challenged, with 34% of snackers limiting their sweet baked goods snack intake in the United States. This has occurred because of the consumer concern for health and diet, and consumers are opting for healthier snacks. When these consumers want to indulge, they are opting for in-store and independent bakeries because they are fresher options. The sweet baked goods will always have a market. However, consumers are becoming more educated and they are looking for healthier brands to snack on.
So after taking a look at these two strategic issues, we decided that the best way to handle our buyer power issue through our top 10 customers, as well as the changing consumer preferences in the U.S., was by trying to diversify into new markets. We looked elsewhere in the U.S. through white space in some stores, but we decided that international expansion abroad was the best strategy forward. Through this, we looked at all the different avenues, whether exporting or franchising, and we actually decided that with the Hostess business model currently operating after the restructuring, that moving operations directly overseas into two key markets would be the best option. After performing an analysis on a series of countries, we settled upon India due to the large population and growing economy and the high SPG market growth rate within the country, and Saudi Arabia due to the high GDP per capita, as well as the growing market there as well. We also wanted to look at possible distribution channels because Hostess, since the restructuring, actually has moved from a direct-to-store model to a direct-to-warehouse model. And so moving into these new markets, we would be going back to the direct-to-store model originally until we were able to set up our own distribution centers. So in India, we looked at DMart, which operates a series of stores all across the metropolitan areas, as well as Hyperpanda in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Josh. Now, after looking at the strategy in terms of what countries we want to go into, as well as possible retailers that will be holding our product and selling it, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the financials. Now, as you can see at the bottom, our total factory costs and machinery costs add up to around $30.5 million, and that is our initial cost. And we're going to implement that in year 2018. So we will. This is This is actually the isolated pro forma. So this is not consolidated. So for this is projecting just revenues with our strategy. So beginning in 2019 all the way to 2021, we expect our total revenues to be discounted at around 30%, increasing to 15%, and 100% operating efficiency around 2021. Following down the cost of goods sold, we have a firm-wide SG&A cost of goods sold of around 57%. We're going to start at 65%, knowing that there's going to be unforeseen boundaries or obstacles not allowing us to operate fully. And we all know strategies are not going to be perfect. No company's perfect when implementing new things. So in that way, we're expecting to have a little bit of a bump there. So moving on to 2021, we expect to be operating at full capacity, as stated before, and moving thereafter, increasing about 10%, which is parallel with our compound annual growth rate within our firm. So as you can see below over there, the MPV with our projected cash flows of over 5 years, we have a positive MPV and expect to pay back our amount of $30.5 million in year 4. And right here we have a graphical depiction of with and without strategy revenues, and these basically there's basically a delta in between with and without of about 7%. So we expect things to be looking positive for us.
To wrap up, we identified 2 strategic issues that Hostess faces, and from these issues, we created one objective to combat these issues. And then from there, we believe that the strategy of internationally expanding Hostess to Saudi Arabia and India would be a viable option for the company and to help combat these issues. Thank you for indulging us, and we now open the floor with any questions.
So what would the world be without devil dogs and Twinkies? So start there. I guess the question would be, since Hostess just recently came out of bankruptcy and kind of the state of that business, what led you, I guess, what led you to look completely going off to what their core values are of just distribution in the U.S.? And I know we're looking for potentially different buyers, but going overseas where it's a much tougher market, tougher to kind of get the business rolling.
That's a very good question. We looked at our competitors, Flowers Foods and Grupo Bimbo. These are 2 main competitors that both have a large presence overseas, and we felt that we were missing out on these opportunities. And so we went forth and we did our research to see which companies would be the most viable to go into and which have the highest snacking culture, GDP, and other variables. And we all took that into account and compared it to our competitors, and that's how we came up with this strategy.
Thank you.
Curious how the financial performance of the strategies you put together, what that looks like for the company overall. So essentially, what does this represent? What piece of the total? And then my second question is just really curious about whenever a company contemplates going overseas, as you said, that you sort of added a little filler in your cost of goods sold for, let's call it a placeholder for unknowns. I'm really curious how you thought through what those expenses are, particularly in 2 markets that the company is completely unfamiliar with.
So
especially one. Well, and then I would go there. Especially given markets that I think have a bit of a bribery problem.
Yeah, so in our research, it was admittedly a bit difficult to research some of the things having to do with the cost of goods sold and SG&A expenses. So that being said, I guess difference between ours, like our firm wide, and our change here could be accounted for that because we had honestly some trouble taking that into account, which is kind of difficult in all aspects. To address your first question, this is our combined pro forma with everything. So at the end of 2017, we had revenues of about $770 million, and at the end of this year, our projected width is at the top number there, 863, and that is combined with our strategy as well. And that 2018 has without anything with the strategy. The whole thing is with our strategy, but as you saw before, the year zero is 18 with zero in net income and all items over there. So moving forward from there, we have a big jump from 2018 and 2019 due to that initial push to become, to build all the factories and build all the machinery for the strategy. So from there on forward, we move with our strategy to 2021 with it's about like $87 million, as I recall from the isolated pro forma. So, and maybe Josh can address the second question.
Yeah, I think to address the main question of how did we calculate those unexpected costs or costs of doing business abroad, we, like Mike said, had a hard time building off of that without enough data. So we kind of looked at our competitors. I think Grupo Bimbo is our biggest competitor that operates internationally. We kind of looked at their cost of goods sold and their SG&A, and then we tried to compare that with our own and what it would be kind of projecting that abroad. But it is something that you have to kind of play around with. Yeah.
So, did you contemplate, as you were talking as a team, did you contemplate a line that could address some of these health issues that consumers have in the U.S. and decided to double down with the unhealthy overseas, or how did you think about those options?
Yes, so we did consider buying a buying a healthier snack company, and abroad we looked into the trends and how they're snacking, but we decided that it was going too far away from our core competency because we make sweet baked goods, we make Twinkies, that's what we're known for, that's what we do, sponge cake. So we decided that this is something that we want to stick with, and so we're going to take our products that we believe will do the best abroad. Like, for example, in India, they are very big on pastries and breakfast items. So we recently bought Big Texas, who manufactures breakfast pastries, and we're planning on taking that over there. That's something that we could look into. So we're really trying to match our core competency with our product line, match it with the trends in the other countries that we are going into. Yep.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
On the production facilities overseas, did you do any comparison of what it would be to just produce in the U.S. and ship versus build production facilities here?
So while we were going through all the implementing the strategy and thinking about what strategy should we really pick, going international was pretty favorable to us. And looking at what these other firms are doing, Grupo Bimbo and Flowers Foods, they're international. Now, I believe it's Bimbo. They're in India, and they just implemented that strategy a couple years back and are doing amazing, which is awesome.
Producing over there.
Yes, in India. So what we did was in terms of you were talking about the factories.
Yeah. So simply, did you do a comparison of what it would cost to produce it here and ship it versus build it over there and
Yes.
produce it?
So with our research, we thought it would be best to buy a factory, produce using the way we produce here, and sell to a retailer that knows how to sell in a certain market. So culturally.
Okay. And then the other question is, so you're concerned in the U.S. because Walmart's too big and a huge customer with pressure, and you're going to build factories overseas and do the same thing to yourself by having one customer. With D-Mart, what's the thought process on expanding after D-Mart?
Those were just the initial potential retailers to partner with. We would try to do the same thing, which is diversify our customer base abroad as well.
They were just examples of people we could potentially partner with.
Great, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that our whole goal was to decrease our buyer or the power of our buyers, and by going international, it's going to take away that percentage that Walmart already has over us. That was our main
Thank
idea.
So great job, guys. Fun company to do this on based on the recent, them coming out of bankruptcy. So 2 quick questions that I didn't think you addressed. Internationally, are you producing the current Hostess line, or are you doing something that's more regional to them overseas? So I don't know, that's the first question.
In terms of like the product line we would be
Yeah,
selling over there.
are you selling Twinkies over there, or is there something else you're doing that's more to the local flavor?
Yeah, so Ari addressed that earlier. I think just a little bit. So Danishes are very popular in India, and those are basically like the specialty dessert that they eat over there in our research. And through Big Texas, the acquisition with Big Texas, we would be sending those over. But in terms of like more specifically what other products we would be sending, that is to further discussion.
Sure. Fair enough. And then the second thing I actually want to talk about is something you identify as a weakness, and I just want to see if you guys discuss it. So to me, Hostess, you mentioned marketing as a weakness. They have iconic brand, Twinkie. Who doesn't smile when you see Twinkies and Ho-Hos, right? And so I think coming from Hormel, we have Spam. It's an 80-year-old brand, but has record year-over-year sales because we do a great job marketing and to different generations. So did you guys consider a different marketing strategy before you started to look overseas? Understanding you want to spread out the buying power and limit the use of Walmart. I'd love to know what you guys discussed internally as you start to put this presentation together around changing their marketing campaign.
So one thing we thought about, one thing we were thinking like in terms of Hostess, like yes, everyone knows Hostess as the Twinkies brand, but we were thinking like maybe like what else do they have other than that? Like there's basically other than brand recognition, which is one of our strengths. There's really nothing much, and it might have been an internal, I guess. We were disgruntled by the internally because their website was not giving us much information. They didn't have any product lines on there. It was even hard to find the 10K on there, to be honest with you, at first. So in terms of the website, we thought that it was like a little.
And just going out, Hostess recently came out with an ice cream line. Did you guys know that?
Nope.
Exactly. So we saw them really struggle with that and not market that. They partnered with Nestle to create this ice cream line, which sounds great, Twinkies and ice cream, but no one knows about it because their new product marketing really isn't there. They have their iconic brands. Those iconic brands are known, but marketing, for the new products isn't as good. And so that's something that we looked into doing, and we just decided that international, we can use our brand awareness and bring our brands to other places in the world because everyone needs Hostess.
Great, thank you.
Hi, everybody. We're Party City. Our mission is to make any moment extraordinary. I'm Dom Gottschall.
I'm Lou Velati.
I'm Taylor Ryan.
I'm Conlon McAndrew.
And I'm Paige Bergman.
So just an overview about what we're going to talk about today. We'll walk you through the company background of Party City, and then we'll get into our strategic issues, and then how we're going to combat these with our strategic objectives. And then we'll wrap things up with our strategic plan and our conclusion at the end. So just a little bit about Party City, founded in 1947 in Elmsford, New York. They're the leading party goods retailer in North America, and they operate through 2 main segments. Through retail, which they do about 72% of their sales annually, and then about 28% they do in wholesale, and that's out of a figure of $2.3 billion in sales annually. And Party City's target market is primarily mothers, millennials, and empty nesters.
This is Party City's current store presence in North America. As you can see in the gray is where we're not currently located, and in the blue is where we are. So Party City doesn't have any direct competitors, so for sake of comparison, we chose other specialty retail companies such as Michaels, At Home, and Dollar Tree.
So as you can see by this chart here, Party City has experienced stagnant sales growth since 2015, as we have a CAGR of 1.11%, and this is a problem for us going forward as the retail industry benchmark is around 8%.
Party City also has a sales problem on a per store basis. As you can see in this chart, Party City's same store sales metric has been negative in 2016 and 2017, which indicates that even their small sales growth has come as a result of opening more stores and purchasing franchise locations rather than organically growing sales in their existing stores. When compared to our competitors in the sales per square foot metric, we are also losing market share. Michaels and Dollar Tree have been gaining advantage and growing positively over the last 3 years, while Party City has been steadily declining in sales per square foot since 2015.
So an issue that Party City really struggles with is employee satisfaction. We looked at Glassdoor, and their average rating is a 2.9 on a scale of 5, which is not great by any means. And many of the reviews online on Glassdoor paint just a bleak, negative picture of the company. So then moving forward, we identified 3 strategies we'd really like to address through Party City. The first one being our party planning application, the second one being our expansion into Canada, and then finally, number 3 was an investment in sustainable production.
So our first strategy is to combat our stagnant sales growth. So our SMART objective is to increase net sales by 7.5% by 2020. And we've developed a party planning service that is going to be a feature on our current Party City application. And we'll get into that in the next slide, but we really believe that this is something that can set us apart from our competitors and be a game changer for Party City as a company going forward.
So Party City's goal is to increase convenience for its customers. So with that being said, we are all very excited to announce that Party City will be adding a party planning feature to its current mobile app. This will allow customers within a 10-mile radius of a Party City store to take a photo on the mobile app of their party venue. After taking this photo, a sidebar will appear with different Party City products and items that they can then click and drag to exactly where they want to be located at their party. This will be scheduled in an hour-and-a-half block of time, and we will send 2 party specialists out to complete your party for a price of $80. So here's an example. We took a picture of our nice party venue, and the sidebar came down with different themes that you click on. We picked special occasions, and here, as you can see, there's different Party City products and items that you then click and drag to set up just how you want your party. So we also are excited to announce that we will be adding a premium party planning feature. So this works the same way in that you take the photo of your party venue, but instead of the sidebar appearing with different products, there would be a comment section where you can tell us a little bit about your party, your theme, color schemes that you might want implemented in your party. But the great thing about this is you can sit back and relax, and we will handle everything for you. We'll plan your party, we'll deliver your party, and we'll set up your party for you for a price of $200. So here's Party City's current presence. In year 1, we plan to implement the strategy in 100 stores on the East Coast. We picked these states based on median household income. In year 2, we plan to stay on the East Coast and implement it in 200 more stores. And then in year 3, we plan to move to the West Coast and implement it in 300 stores.
Because of the added convenience to our customers offered by this service, we believe that this service will generate significant sales increases in the coming years. Additionally, this service will become profitable in 2019, with profit growth continuing in 2020 as the service begins being offered in 600 stores nationwide in that year.
So how this party planning application is going to create value for Party City, first and foremost with the employees who have had low employee satisfaction in the past, this application is going to provide them an opportunity to get outside of Party City stores, breathe in the fresh air, take a break from the normal status quo of work, and log some extra hours, earn some extra money, get some tips while they deliver the party to the customers. And then for the customers specifically, it's going to increase their convenience and engagement with Party City as a whole. And then finally, for Party City, the company itself, we hope that this application is going to increase our sales and boost our margins as well.
So our second strategy is that we want to expand into Canada. We believe that this will combat our stagnant sales growth. So our smart objective is to increase same-store sales from negative 0.7% to 0.3% by 2020. And like I said, we plan to open 15 additional stores in Canada. So why Canada is such an attractive market for us is that the average store in Canada performs significantly better than the average Party City store. So stores in Canada do about over $4 million in sales per year, while the average Party City store only does about $2.5 million. As well as that, the stores in Canada have been growing at a much higher rate of around 5.5% as compared to the negative 0.29% as the other Party City stores.
So this is Party City's current store presence in Canada. As you can see, Manitoba and Quebec leave a lot of room for opportunity, as Quebec is the second largest populated province and Manitoba is the 5th largest. So in the first year, we want to add 9 stores. In the second year, we want to add 3, and in the third year, another 3. So by the end of 2020, we will have 5 stores in Manitoba and 10 in Quebec.
By capitalizing on the higher average sales revenue per store in Party City's Canadian locations, we also believe that this strategy will drive significant sales growth. Additionally, this strategy will be profitable in each year of the store openings, with over $10 million worth of incremental net income generated from 2018 to 2020.
So to improve upon our own manufacturing efficiency within our own company, our smart objective is to decrease cost of sales by 1.5% by 2020. And to do this, we will invest in more sustainable equipment and efficient business processes.
In order to implement this strategy, Party City will undergo a $205 million initial investment. This money will be used to target specifically more sustainable machinery for its manufacturing facilities. This machinery will be more efficient overall, driving greater manufacturing speed as well as reducing energy costs. Furthermore, studies have shown that employees in more sustainable businesses are 16% more productive and are also more likely to report higher levels of satisfaction with their jobs. This increase in employee productivity, as well as the increased manufacturing efficiency, will yield a 2.75% cost savings for Party City. Additionally, Party City experiences 2% higher gross margins on products that it self-manufactures in its wholesale segment rather than purchases from third-party suppliers. Party City has set a goal in 2017 to move from 20% self-manufactured products to 50% self-manufactured products by 2021. Because of the greater efficiency and manufacturing speed offered by this strategy, we believe that Party City can now achieve this target by 2020, where it will capture this additional 2% in gross margin.
So as Conlon just mentioned, we will be achieving higher cost savings with this strategy, but along with that, we believe that since sustainability is becoming more prevalent, and especially with millennials, and given the fact that millennials are in our target market, we believe that we can offer having more sustainable business practices and advertising that to millennials, we can draw in more millennials and have a long-term customer in the millennial market.
Looking at the financial impact of this strategy, because of the substantial cost savings, Party City can expect to see net income growth over the 3 years, with this growth accelerating with the recapture of the 2% additional gross margin in 2020. Looking at the overall combined results of our strategies, Party City can expect an additional $55 million worth of net income by 2020 over this 3-year time span. This includes the significant cost savings from the manufacturing strategy, as well as the sales increases from the party planning service and the Canadian expansion.
So for our conclusion, we want to show how we're creating value through the CEO model. For our customers, we're going to increase convenience and engagement. For our employees, we're creating new job opportunities and additional compensation. And for our owners, we're going to have profitable and sustainable business practices. Now that our party is arriving, thank you. Any questions?
So I wanted to just understand a little bit about the premium party planning. Is that decor only, or is that like the whole party?
So that would be all the decorations, any service that party planning or that Party City would offer. So any way that we could implement our products into your party, we would handle both the planning, the setup, and the delivery for that.
Okay, so you're not talking about coordinating food coming to just purely the decor?
Yeah, purely the decorations for that.
Okay. And then I wanted to talk to you also a little bit about employee engagement. So I know you use Glassdoor as your source, which certainly has its pros and cons. But did you get a sense that it was in the store side? Was it in the manufacturing side? Where does engagement seem to be an issue?
I think the issue is mainly in the store side. I don't think there were that many issues with the manufacturing side. I think it was mostly employees in the store that are engaging with customers on a day-to-day basis having major issues.
Got it. So, as a mother, I have spent a lot of time and money in Party City, and certainly what I would say about the stores near me is that they are tired. So, there's certainly an opportunity, I think, to make the store less of the most obvious option and more of a place you want to actually go. So I think there's also an investment opportunity.
I think to add on to that, like you said, the stores themselves, the storefronts are not super impressive. They are a little grungy and dark and old. And I think something that this party planning application does is it breathes fresh life into our company, and it provides a new way for Party City to reach its customers outside of that traditional store presence, and get the employees as well, out of the storefronts and get them, out into the community in sort of a different, more relaxed setting.
And then, so how do you think about then e-commerce as well? Because it's in this day and age, it's a hard decision to invest in your stores when so many sales are happening.
Right.
Online.
So we looked into e-commerce when we were doing our project, and they only do about 6% of their sales online. They have very limited online presence. So I think too, along with the party planning application, we can definitely develop facets through our e-commerce to also breathe life into our company too, because they only do about 6% of their sales online. So I think moving forward, that is something we want to grow.
Definitely. Thank you.
Great job, guys. So go back to the investment in the people. You talked about the problem, but you didn't really have it in your strategy as a solution other than you're going to buy new manufacturing equipment, which will make the manufacturing people happier. You talked about getting out of the store, which would make them happier. I would recommend that if you let disgruntled associates leave the store, you got a problem. But was there any thought into how do you fix that negative associate, and would that fix sales a little bit?
Yeah, so we thought that this could be fixed kind of tangentially through our strategies, through the employee satisfaction increases that we might get from becoming a more sustainable business, because studies have shown that employees do take more pride in their companies when they implement these practices. Additionally, we just thought by increasing kind of the different tasks and just making it generally more fun through the party planning and giving them an opportunity to kind of use their skills in a different way than they're normally being utilized, it would kind of give them more diversity in their tasks that might also kind of decrease maybe potential boredom with their job.
And did you look at how the best practices in Canada could maybe be moved to the United States? And what did you see in Canada that made for that huge difference in positive sales?
So they didn't really disclose any different specific information about Canada other than the different sales per store figures that we were able to calculate. One of the big things is that Canada's personal disposable income is increasing steadily and is projected to continue doing that, which is why we thought it would be a good idea even for the future to open more stores there, as well as their retail sales are growing. But other than that, like relating to specific store-by-store practices, we couldn't find anything on that.
Thank you.
Nice job, guys. Fun presentation. I would say you're up front. Your application or the app and what you're doing spot on. So I've read where the Wayfair, it's been very beneficial for them, for people to place the furniture within their homes and on their app, and the same thing for like all the paint stores where people are putting the colors on the walls and stuff. So that's spot on. My question about the app though is, just as Jillian was saying, she's been to Party City many times for birthday parties and such as a mom. There's a personal touch to when you're playing your party. There's the creativity side. Do you think you lose any of that when you hire somebody to do that? You know, do you think there's somebody out there? It's like, hey, this is my daughter's 3rd birthday, and I'm going to do all the work for this. I'm just curious if you guys talked about that when you were putting the strategy together.
We did definitely talk about that, but also with the first level of the party planning app, you can really just buy the products and have them come and set them up. So I don't think that really takes away from if you want to set up your child's party however you want it, but it just gives you that convenience of the fact that it's going to be delivered to your house, and I don't think it's really taking away from that creativity at all. I think it's just giving a more convenient experience for the customer.
Fair answer. So then the second thing, and Paul and I were asking, how did you guys come up with the dollar amount? So between $80 and $200, where did those numbers come from?
We're wrecking our van on the way over.
Yeah.
For like way more than $200.
So these are where the numbers came from.
Excellent. Okay.
So we built in a 40% gross margin for the basic service, and then because it's a premium service, we took an additional 10% gross margin on the premium delivery. We used estimates on how long due to the scheduling blocks for these deliveries, and then we also allocated an additional 2 hours for the premium planning service for the employees to actually go into the stores and pick out the items and actually plan that different party.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go back to Jillian's question a little bit. So you talked about one of their biggest challenges being same-store sales, but also looking at sales per square foot. What do we have to do to, I mean, outside the party planning app, which I like, but what other thoughts or can we do to drive more money out of a box? You look at a 30,000 square foot Party City, it's pretty big, and the majority of the brick and mortar stores right now, the bigger ones are struggling. What can we do to get more money out of the space outside of the app? Any other thoughts?
So one thing that we did discuss is taking the app, like once customers get more engaged with the app, and doing different advertisements or pop-ups on there that alert them to our in-store specials that would be exclusively in stores. So that would drive customers who would be kind of primarily using the app as their main interaction with Party City and give them some sort of incentive to actually go in store and like visit our physical locations.
Yeah, so with the app, that would be good, but you look at Party City's core business, and right now Halloween's a huge category for them. So how would you incorporate the app to kind of look at the Halloween business or that piece?
I got it. So they already have an app for the Halloween where they can like take a picture of their face and put their face on a costume. I think it's called Spookify.
Okay.
And so we figured we could build off of that and make it for party planning because we already have an overdependence. Our company has an overdependence on Halloween and Q4 sales.
Yeah, and then same thing on the store. I look at Party City and you think about the market share of toys right now since Toys R Us went out of business. Any thoughts on incorporating, you think about a huge store like that, a perfect model, kind of a synergy of one or the other?
Yeah, they actually made one. They made pop-up stores for Q4 for Christmas. They're called Toy City. They actually put their locations in the Toys R Us locations that closed down. So they're really trying to implement that. But we just found out that Toys R Us is now coming back from bankruptcy. But they made them pop-up stores, so they will be closing the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this was our last presentation. Please join me in thanking all 9 teams. Each of them have developed, delivered, and defended great strategic plans. So thank you. And so now we're going to give some time for the judges because now they had to go back to the 9 presentations and select the top 2. While they do that, we're going to go outside. We have refreshments and snacks outside. So the judges will tell us when to come back. Yeah. Actually, I think it's a good idea to do what we put your presentation, and then we take a picture with that. Yeah, yeah.
Wait, we're doing the picture in here.
Here, you want me to take it? Okay, so we gotta take our stuff out. Oh, well, I guess we're coming back here.
Yeah, we are. We have to.
Let's come back.
At least they put the right size tape on it. Last time, I can't believe you're stepping on the tape. There you go. That was me. You want to flip her all the way up this way? Does that work? Yeah. Good. You got enough room in here. No team has six, right?
No team has six. Good.